Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome today to the Valentine's Day, the Valentine's Day town meeting, and we thank you for being here tonight. We are going to start with our public hearing this evening.
Madam Chair.
Manager, it's going to be a long meeting.
Long meeting.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Most of you remember we had a public hearing some time ago on this particular application. This is not anything where the town is responsible for anything financially. The IRS rules require that when you have a nonprofit such as Livewell, they come in front of a town board. Obviously, this is the highest town board in a public setting, and they go forth and tell us what they want to use the bonding for. In this case, it's for improvements to the Livewell organization and their property that they own here in Southington. So I'd like to have Michael Smith, President and CEO of Livewell, come on up and explain once again our process. The most important thing to remember, and I know this was a big thing last time, this is bonding that Livewell is getting. It has nothing to do with the taxpayers of the town of Southington.
Thank you for having us back. I'm going to introduce you to Keith Varian. Keith is from the firm of Murtha Kalina and has helped to establish and I think lay some general information about the whole TEFRA process.
Thank you all for having us back, and I apologize for having to come back again. As Mark said, we were here in July for a TEFRA hearing. As you know, part of the rules, the federal tax rules to obtain tax-exempt bond financing for a tax-exempt entity like Livewell is to have a public hearing by the host, as well as by the issuer. In this case, the issuer is the New Hampshire National Finance Authority. They've held their TEFRA hearing publicly, approved everything went very well. In this situation now, because we're in the town, we need the town to hold a public hearing for us. Again, there's no obligation on the town's part here. This is not, you're assuming no liability, no credit, nothing. It is simply to host a public hearing for us. In July, we were approved for a project that after going to the DSS for a certificate of need, we had to make some changes to the project, and we felt, to be fair to the public, that we should come back and have a new TEFRA hearing to put this new project in front of the town. And I think each of you have in your packets the changes to the project. As you can see, the primary changes really are a change in the bed mix. It is not anything dramatic. It's just a shifting of the number of beds from skilled nursing to assisted living. So in this situation now, we're in need of another TEFRA hearing and approval. You also have in your packets the resolution that if you so approve, will be used to approve the project and the bond financing. So happy to take any questions or help with anything.
Any members of the council have any questions?
One question that's important for the public is how big is the project and what is the amount of the project?
So the bond financing, again, we're approving up to 90 million, but the bond financing at this point looks like it'll be about 76 million. Construction is going to be, something less than that, but that's the total overall project though at this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So I just want to mention, I go way back with Michael, and so Livewell is just an excellent facility. I think it's great that you're expanding. I think it's great that it's been done, it's being done this way properly, and, just wish you the very best.
It's a great facility. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much, and we will close the public. Sorry.
Public hearing.
Anybody speaking in favor from the public? Is there anyone who would like to come forward and speak in favor? Please go ahead, George.
First, and the applicant, I'd just like to know what it's for.
George, Livewell is, it used to be called Alzheimer's Resource Center on South Main Street, that large building. Okay. Okay, good. Good. Yeah. Is there anyone else speaking in favor? Is there anyone speaking against the project? I see no one. Anybody speaking against? Having not heard anybody speaking for or against, I will close the public hearing. Thank you so much. We're going to take action this evening. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to be opening our regular meeting at this time. I would ask everyone to remain standing for a moment of silence after our flag salute for Eldon Hafford. Eldon, of course, was one of the very important members of our community who always put the poor first. He actually was the executive director for many years at Bread for Life. And he actually penned the slogan that no one in Southington may go hungry. And he gave his life to feeding the poor and collecting food, distributing food, cooking. He did it all. And so we're going to have a moment of silence after that. And I've asked the town manager to lower our town flag to half-staff in honor of Eldon today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So if you would be so kind, Madam Clerk, would you call our roll, please?
Tom Lombardi,
Here.
James Morelli,
Here.
Christopher Palmieri,
Here.
Jack Perry,
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky,
Here.
Michael Del Santo,
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Here.
William Diedzik, Victoria Triano.
I'm here, thank you. Let's all stand for the prayer, followed by the flag salute, followed by a moment of silence.
Heavenly Father, give us the ability this night to see past what's first apparent and into the very heart of issues that are presented. Keep us open and willing to hear the concerns of the people of this community and give us the courage to act upon those things which are best for Southington. Amen.
Amen. Would you all please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you remain standing for a moment of silence for Eldon Hafford? Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Item 2, the minutes from last meeting.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you so much. Councilperson's communication. Right now, we are going to have a STEPS presentation. The Deputy Chief is with us, and Megan Albanese. So, Megan and Chief, would you come on forward?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. Okay, so tonight we are here to talk to you, thank you for having us, about our new prevention curriculum. We're super excited that the STEPS Coalition has partnered with Southington Police Department, our prevention partners, and we have come up with a new curriculum to support prevention and all our efforts that we've been doing here in Southington for the past 14 years. So if there are some very important members sitting right here who are with STEPS since the inception of STEPS. So for those of you who don't know, STEPS was created many years ago, and it started with some suicides in Southington, some youth suicides in Southington. And the leaders in our town, Vicki and Chris were there, came together to how can we create a safety net? How can we protect these kids that are falling through the cracks and committing suicide or other risk-taking behaviors such as substance use? We knew that kids were slipping through the cracks and we needed to do something about it. The leaders that went around that table applied for some federal funding, and for 10 years we were granted $1 million to make prevention a priority here in the Southington community. How they did that is through developmental assets and building our asset building classrooms through the Southington school system. There are 40 developmental assets that we follow, 20 internal, 20 external, with the hope is the more assets a student has, the less likely they are to engage in any kind of risk-taking behavior or substance use. Our goal is to build those assets with intent. We we research these assets. We know that these are what our students need to succeed here in our town and everywhere else when they move on and leave us. The asset building classrooms were built into our Southington school system. Every single school has an asset champion, and they all build these assets with intent on a monthly basis. So where SPD fit in was that over the years, the coalition and the police department has partnered to make prevention a priority. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard a fifth grade classroom when a police officer walks into the room, but you would think you're at a rock concert. So we knew that previous relationship where people were familiar with DARE, right, and that was taught for a very long time, helped solidify that relationship between the students and law enforcement, and we knew that we couldn't lose that. It was so important to keep that relationship going. So we partnered with the Southington Police Department, who are very welcoming to us. And we figured we would maybe make our own curriculum and kind of make it our own homegrown, organic, and relative to Southington. Last year, a first grader in Southington was on a bus and she picked up a vape and she didn't know what it was. She picked it up with a tissue, thank goodness, because she didn't even weigh 50 pounds, right? If that had seeped into her skin, she could have died from nicotine poisoning. We know that even now, first graders in Southington need to know about prevention. If they can find a vape on the bus, then they need to know what a vape is and not to touch it. Right? So we knew we couldn't skip a year. Last year, Officer Chris Laporte and I went into every single 4th and 5th grade classroom and did a vaping presentation on the dangers of vaping, what to look for, what not to touch, and who are those trusted adults you can turn to when you do have a situation like that. A huge thank you to Officer Laporte. He was such a support and did a lot of heavy lifting with that. So we wanted to know, how can we make this relevant, up-to-date, and important prevention education to our Southington youth? So that's when I said to Bill, let's make our own. And so that's what we did. We have 10 years of data that we have surveyed our kids and our students in grades 7th, 9th, and 11. We have the level of developmental assets that each student has, the perception of harm. How harmful do they think marijuana is? How harmful do students think alcohol use is? We also survey them on their parental perception of harm. How harmful do your parents think marijuana is? How harmful do your parents think alcohol is? And then our substance past 30-day use. We are actually asking students about their past 30-day drug use for alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Other drugs meaning prescription medications, hallucinogens, things like that. So we use these data points to come up with our very specific prevention curriculum and also included that asset development. We took a 10-week previous prevention curriculum and turned it into 6 weeks. These are just the basic summary of the lessons that'll be taught, and it includes trusted adults, protective and risk factors, risk-taking behaviors, youth substance use and the developing brain, internet safety, and then mental health and inclusivity. So how it's going to work is we have 8 to 10 Southington police officers who will be trained in the new prevention curriculum. We were actually very honored that we had 14 officers apply to be a part of this new program. We are so thrilled that it was such a hit. I was allowed, thank you to Deputy Chief, to be a part of the interview process. We interviewed each officer. They did a PowerPoint presentation for us, and we were able to ask them questions about those developmental assets. Our goal is to really make a wraparound approach for these kids, to create that safety net for the kids that are falling and move it wherever we have to so that we can catch every single kid and not let any Southington kid fall through the cracks. So we'll be training the officers on those internal and external assets, foundational relationship building, and then the prevention piece too. We'll be training them. We bumped our timeline down a little bit, so we'll be training them in the summer, and then the whole new rollout will begin in September with each officer getting their own school. Each officer has been assigned to a school, and we want that to even go one step further. Not only will they be going in and teaching this prevention curriculum, we want the schools to own that police officer and really build that relationship for the officer to go have lunch once a month with the students in the school, for officers to go to the PTO night. So really build that relationship to keep it going between law enforcement and prevention. And then they'll be on their own. The officers will go and they'll teach the new curriculum, and we're very, very excited about it. I feel like I flew through that and stumbled a little on my words. I was a little nervous. So I love any questions or any comments, or Deputy Chief, if you want to say anything.
No, I mean, Megan covered everything. I mean, the ultimate goal is to go north and south with the program too, is to try and get us involved with the kids at a younger age with different types of prevention. You know, it's right now maybe their first exposure with us is in 5th grade, so we're focusing on that. But the goal is within 2 to 3 years to be downgrades and upgrades so we can have a presence. And organically, things have changed in our life. I mean, we have so many other issues and problems this year now that we hope we can help with it. They mean like trusted adults. Some people will say, what's a trusted adult? And I give an example, like when I have my kids now are 24 and 18. And like I said to them, I said, you know, if you're in a situation where you're making a bad decision and you're afraid to call dad because dad's a police officer, dad's going to get mad, you know, call Uncle Lou. Let Uncle Lou go pick you up so you don't make any other bad decisions. And then Uncle Lou can bring you home and we can talk about it. And that's the stuff that we need to really get to the kids, because, you know, I use golf analogies, like people that play golf, the ball is in the woods. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go in between those trees. And then I hit the ball and hits a tree, and I'm making bad decision after bad decision. If a child's out there making a bad decision or they're in a bad situation, if they make one good decision or just to chip out 90 degrees and I got a shot to the green, it's going to be better for the kids. And that's what we're trying to do. And there's no added expense or anything as far as looking at how we're doing this. So I just think it's going to strengthen our community and our ability to have our kids deal with what they're facing today.
With some of our STEPS prevention funding, we are able to use this to get the new curriculum up and running and put some of our funds towards that. So we are very excited for that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Officer Primary, the Deputy Chief Primary, put the nail on the head, because it's got to start at home. You know, parents have to, it's got to start there. Parents got to put the fear into these kids that, you know, drugs are bad and making poor decisions is the end of the world. And we have that same setup at my house. Don't call me. They know to call Uncle Tommy if there's a problem or an issue. It's so funny you say that. But it's also so very important that younger children need to know that the police are their friends. Police are on their side, and I love hearing things like when a police officer walks in, everyone thinks they're a rock star. That's the best. You know what I mean? My kids know that police are their friends. They know that they're not someone that's going to come and arrest them, you know, and even if they're making bad decisions, it's good to know that the police are on their side and they're their friends. So that's important. Good stuff.
Thank you, Mike. Val?
Sure, thank you. Meg, thanks, and Bill. So just a couple questions. With going to the younger children, are you getting any pushback? You know, any pushback from parents, from teachers? Like, do they feel it's...
Sure. So we haven't had any pushback yet. We are starting with the same grade where prevention efforts were previously, you know, put through.
Right.
So we haven't received any pushback. Not yet. So maybe
Good.
So maybe never.
Good, so that's good. And the mental health and the inclusivity, we've talked about this. Are you seeing that that's a at-risk group? There's some at-risk groups that you can focus on. That'll be focused on in the training. I mean, mental health now, we're hearing so much, you know, with mental health at all different levels, all different ages. So I'm assuming that it's going to be a
Yes.
big part of the training.
So that'll be in it. And when we look at this, we have subject matter experts that are working with us. This has kind of been a draw. STEPS is a leading coalition in the state, and now we have other coalitions are like, what, how can we get in on this? And how can we partner with our police department to do that? So when we talk about mental health and inclusivity at a 5th grade level, we're talking about being nice to people. We're talking about accepting everybody. We're not getting into anything too technical, and everything is very grade level. Just like when we talk to 1st graders about a vape, we're not going to talk to a 1st grader the way we're going to talk to a 5th grader about a vape, right? We're going to talk about don't touch things that you don't know what they are, and how do you get an adult, and when do you get an adult, right? So we're very mindful of keeping everything at that age appropriate level. But we also know that the world is changing, and mental health is a hot topic right now. From our data that we have so many years of, we're able to look at those at-risk groups and see which students in Southington are most at risk or have the highest past 30-day substance use rates, right? We're even able to look at what students in Southington are reporting having attempted suicide.
Right. When are we in a year where the surveys are being done?
We are in a year that the survey is being done.
So that's actually
that
good.
is where we get most of our pushback is actually in the survey. We survey next week, students in grades 7th, 9th, and 11th. And I think that's where people sometimes can feel like if we ask a question, maybe we're bringing that to the student's attention, which is farthest from the truth.
Right, right. So it will be interesting to see, especially coming out of COVID.
Right. Where the numbers
Where
have
the
changed.
numbers have
So we're going to
changed.
be paying a lot of close attention to those past 30-day use rates, in addition to attempted suicide, depression, anxiety, all of those things. And I'm happy to break that down piece by piece with anyone if they're ever interested in what we actually track. I have a whole spreadsheet of it, and we can have a nice meeting and talk about it.
Good. Yeah, I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Jack?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Megan, I want to thank all your efforts. You know, obviously I've worked with you guys over the years trying to help, and you guys have this energy, which is definitely appreciated. I remember when STEPS was formed, I was actually in high school, and I actually lost some of my classmates. And I think this was a great opportunity that you guys were giving resources to the kids and somewhere to go and talk to, because like you said, it's kind of hard just to go talk to your parents sometimes about some of the things that you're facing. You know, this is, I think, something our youth definitely needs, you know, and you know, the police department getting involved with that partnership. I don't think there's a better way of doing that because, again, unfortunately, I was at the apple harvest this past year when there was a stabbing there. And I remember recognizing some of the kids there, and I worked with them to work with Officer Porter at the time, you know, to, again, you know, it was a tragedy to see happen, but that kid's mental state, like you were saying, he's now making other bad decisions. And I think it's important that they have somewhere to go so things like that don't happen. You know, again, this is something that I think everyone on the council has helped STEPS in one way or another in the police department with this. So this is definitely exciting things to see that you guys are moving forward and progressing this program to do more outreach. And, you know, again, our kids are everything. And as a young parent, you know, my kid going through Southern schools one day, this is something that I'm happy to see that our town has. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you because we have received support from every town council member. So thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody?
I
Yes,
just
Chris?
have a question. When are we going to see the new STEPS logo on the cruiser?
We're
to
getting
replace
there.
Okay.
We're working on it. We're working on it little by little.
Excellent. In all seriousness, thank you both because the partnership between the police department and STEPS is incredible. The synergy that you both bring and the energy is exactly why it's as successful as it is.
Thank you.
It's quite exciting. I just have a couple of questions. Everybody else, all right? A couple of questions. How many hours a week will an officer be in the school?
So the actual lesson itself, the curriculum lesson is 40 minutes per week. So whether they do it 6 weeks in a row or maybe every other, that's going to be up to each school and they can pick that themselves. And then we're going to look to set up what are we looking for over the summer and have, you know, some basic standards of will it be an extra lunch or will it be a PTO meeting and how much time we can get each officer in the school.
And so, Chief, will these officers be regular officers doing a regular shift and then be assigned an hour or two a week to that particular school?
Yeah, it'll be similar to the program we work in now in 5th grade. What they'll do is, you know, if they're off, they'll be in, they'll pay overtime to work there, to teach the lesson, but we want to get them involved while they're working their shifts too. And that's where it comes in.
Yeah.
You know, even if we look at our DARE officer, the DARE officer goes there, teaches, and then we kind of lose a connection. We're trying to get a connection where, hey, you know, Hatton School's in my patrol area. I'm going to stop in. I'm going to see my kids. We have some officers now that we found out through the grapevine we actually interviewed where they developed a relationship with some schools and they'll go into a class and say, hey, look, I'm going to check back in a month. If the teacher said you're all doing good, we'll go out. You can see the cruisers and stuff like that. This is going to have an impact, and that's what we're built around it. So there's going to be some give and take on our officers' part. They're all excited. So it's not going to change drastically how we're operating the program, other than we're going to be more involved with each school.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that because I know that right now we want to make sure that we have enough officers. We've got our task force. We've got so many things going on. And so will we be phasing out DARE?
This will be replacing there.
there.
Yes,
So in September, there will be no longer a DARE program.
that's correct.
This will take the place of that, and it seems a lot more interaction with the police officer who is assigned to that school, too. It seems that it's just not a class, but rather a relationship being built in the class. It's great excitement, yeah.
And we want to focus on fifth grade, and then, like I said, when we go down to the lower grades, we'll work again with the people in the upper grades. You know, Megan and I have talked, like, they do a transition day for kids that are going from, middle school into high school. But yet, like we talk about, if you're graduating high school, you don't have a transition day to sit with the kids for maybe 30 or 40 minutes and talk about you're going to college now. Mom and dad are not going to get you up to go to bed on, just go to school on time. If you don't do your homework, they're not going to tell you, hey, you're failing. So that's the stuff that we feel collectively we're losing some of it. It's like, okay, we have these step-up days, but they're, I know when my son graduated high school and went to college, he struggled with one class for first semester. And we got him home saying, hey, you got to straighten things out because school's not going to call and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Palmera, your son's not going to school, or he's not, he's struggling. So this is the program. If we can start to build it top to bottom, we're going to prepare our kids better for what they're facing now.
Very good, thank you. I know Paul had a question.
Yeah,
Paul?
I was just gonna, I thought you were gonna actually state it, Madam Chair, but first of all, thank you, Megan, for taking my call earlier, because I did have a few questions similar to yours, Madam
okay,
Chair,
go ahead.
that Megan was kind enough to answer for me about the resources. And you were going there
Yeah.
when you had said, you were talking about the police, which I think is a huge part. I was really nervous when I heard some months ago that DARE was going away, because our community has had an integrated relationship with the schools, with the police department, and I was concerned that was going to go away. So to see that we're actually maybe even beefing that up
Yeah,
is really exciting. And, I thought you were going to say, hey, if you need investment too, don't be afraid to raise your hand, because I think these are areas that we should be investing
is that
in
what
for
you
our
said I was
children.
gonna say?
I'm
Just ask
gonna go out there.
money,
I'm gonna go out there and
just
say,
check.
no, I'm not gonna
just-
say write the
just
check,
wondered.
but these are great things to invest in. So thank you for obviously for doing the grant and creating a new curriculum, and thank you for integrating the PD into the equation.
I'm very excited too, is one of those first 5. I'm very excited to see how we've progressed, and Megan, you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Very good. Last call. Anybody else comments? Anything? Thank you very much. Because of our agenda is quite long, Megan was going to stick around and show us how to use Narcan and have Narcan for us, but I gave her permission, if it's going too long, she may have to leave. So just so that we know, we'll reschedule that part. If you're around, great. If you're not, that's great too. We'll just reschedule. Very good. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Councilmatic communications. I first just want to say, I know that after reading the paper, there has been some issues with the Commission for People with Disabilities. And tonight, we're going to try to rectify those and try to get a full committee going again. We had some people who resigned for things that they were offended with. So I just want to say, if this is the most apolitical board I think we have. All of us are concerned about those that are disabled in this town. And so later on in the evening, we will replace those that have chosen to step back and with a charge that goes forward. So I wanted to just start that off by saying I've heard of all of this. I've called 2 of the 3 folks that resigned and had lengthy conversations with them. And I think we have an understanding going forward. So I just wanted to make that statement. I'm going to open it up to the Councilmatic communications. Who would like to go first? Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, you had emailed the entire council regarding the YMCA annual dinner, which
Yes.
is on Thursday, February 24th. So hopefully several of us can attend and maybe we can get a table together. And my last announcement before the Saturday, February 26th, YMCA Polar Plunge. I know several of us are very involved with this, and I look forward to jumping with Councilman Morelli and Councilman Dietzick that day. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just an aside for the YMCA annual meeting, Valentine the Clown and Diana Sheard is going to be recognized as Person of the Year, and so that's very exciting. So I will be there also. So anybody else have any Councilmatic communications? Yeah, Chris?
I have, first of all, a letter that I'd like to read into the record. I was asked to read it into the record. I was going to wait till later on the agenda, but it's for the Commission for People with Disability.
Yeah, if it's the same one I'm thinking of where the person takes names and that and.
No.
Okay, we also got a different letter. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
Please.
My name is Megan Mealy. Well, not me, but I'm reading her
Yeah, I
letter.
get it.
And I served on the Southington Commission for Persons with Disabilities from May 2021 until February 2nd, 2022. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I have worked with children with special needs for over 10 years in both clinical and school settings. Advocating for persons with disabilities is not only part of my job, but also something I feel deeply passionate about. Going into my experience on the commission, I was extremely optimistic and excited for the chance to make change on behalf of Southington residents with disabilities. Unfortunately, I instead found the experience to be extremely futile and frustrating, with essentially nothing being accomplished since May 2021. The leadership of the commission did not provide any continuity between meetings. Projects, both new and active, were left off the agendas. Items that were supposed to be addressed or worked on between meetings were not. For example, the commission bylaws, which should have been approved in June, were not reviewed by the chair and voted on until the November meeting 4 months later. There was no follow through or consistency between meetings each month. Each time it was essentially like starting over. This made it nearly impossible to get anything productive accomplished. In addition to the lack of action, there was also a poor understanding of the needs of residents with disabilities. During conversations on public transportation, paratransportation, commission leaders focused on their own personal opinions of public transportation. The chair was even recently quoted in the newspaper as saying the issue of transportation was a Democratic ploy, a statement that is both revealing and frustrating. When presented with evidence and information, including a fact sheet provided by a member of the public attending the meeting, these members focused on nothing but their own anecdotal stories about bus transportation and their own perceived cost to taxpayers and residents, despite all evidence to the contrary. When reminded of the commission goal stated in the bylaws, the goal to advocate for a specific population of our town with disabilities, these same people continue to steer the conversation back to their own opinions and interests. Following the meeting, I overheard two commission members mocking bus transportation, one asking the other if he was taking the bus to an island vacation. It was infuriating, disheartening, and unfair to our community. When making appointments to this commission going forward, I implore you to do the right thing. Appoint people who are passionate, knowledgeable, and open-minded about persons with disabilities and their needs. Choose people who will do the work and take it seriously. Choose people who will recognize the value of others on the commission and inspire the group to advocate wholeheartedly for those with disabilities. And above all, do not turn the needs of this population into a political struggle. Allow for a more equal representation of thoughts on the commission from Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated individuals. It should never be perceived as political to work together to make Southington a more welcoming and inclusive place for residents with disabilities. In fact, there is no better issue for us to unite on. And again, it's from Megan Mealy, 545 West Street, and I'll submit that
Thank you.
to the record.
Anyone else for comment? You have another?
Two other quick
Oh,
things.
yes, okay.
So I mentioned at the last meeting that I would update the council. As we know, I know, Vicki, you normally regularly attend the First Baptist Church Martin Luther King celebration. I mentioned that the First Baptist Church could not hold that. Reverend Sharon Holt has since visited both the middle schools and recognized the students. So I'd like to acknowledge them here as well, and I told her I would share this publicly. The students from DePaulo is Sean O'Sullivan, and from Kennedy, siblings, and 2 of them were recognized. Normally, it's 1 student from each school,
It's
but
both-
how
they
can
were
you break
siblings,
apart a
I know.
family? So Sawyer and Quinlan Colasanto were recognized. And instead, this year, the Reverend came to each school and recognized the students there. And then finally, another good news item. I had the pleasure on Saturday of attending an event from U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, who does an annual Martin Luther King essay writing contest for Black History Month. There were over 2,200 entries, and what he does is he recognizes a student in each middle, elementary, and high school from each congressional district. And we had a winner from Southington. His name is Neo Sebastian Reyes, so the senator recognized him along with students from across the state on Saturday morning in Waterbury. So it's nice putting Southington on the map statewide, and
Yeah.
again, among 2,200 entries, which was fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. That's great. Anybody else? Yeah, Val, go ahead.
It's good. Thanks, Madam Chair. So I have a couple things. It's Black History Month, so I just wanted to let you know about an opportunity. The Barnes Museum, our Barnes Museum, is partnering with the Amistad Center for Art and Culture, which is located within the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum, and they will be holding a virtual program Friday, February 25th at 12 o'clock, and it's entitled Reframing Photography and Fashion. And what it will be is the collection managers from, the collection manager from the Amistad Center and our Barnes curator, Christina Volpe, will discuss and compare photographs from their respective collections depicting African-American women, photography practices, and fashion during the mid-1800s. So it just sounds like an excellent opportunity, and you can register on the Barnes Museum website. Another opportunity is that the library, each of the departments will be holding, or they'll be featuring displays of Black authors and stories, as well as having those displays on social media. So just something to keep in mind for Black History Month. And the second thing, Madam Chair, is Councilor Perry and myself were able to attend an informational meeting which was held last Thursday, February 3rd. So this was held by State Senator Henry Martin from out of Bristol, and it concerns a waste-to-energy company in Bristol. The company is Covanta. And Covanta is applying for a permit with DEEP and with the city of Bristol in order to process biomedical waste at its facility in Bristol. So obviously, being at this informational session, we realize that there's a lot of pros and cons to this. What our caucus is concerned about is the air quality and the air emissions that could potentially take place if this permit is approved, and if certain regulations are not in place to manage the different emissions that are coming from the plant. I mean, we're concerned more about our residents, obviously, that are on the border.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what we've done is we were able to reach out to Senator Martin's office. We're trying to get a informational meeting scheduled for in Southington. The meeting that was held last week in Southington really just had it had Jack and myself and just a couple other people from Southington. So a lot of Bristol people came to that. So we really like to make sure that if there can be a session here in Southington, we can get residents that are interested in this and, get them to go to that meeting. So we'll let you know as soon as we get the date for that.
That's great. And thank you for bringing up Black History Month and Christina Volpe, because Christina has wonderful stories about, even in our history, of African Americans who have made such a difference in our town. So thank you for that too, Val. Anybody else? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, thank you. First, want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. You saw I gave you guys a little gift. We're all away from our significant others, so it's something. Because again, serving our town, I want to thank all you guys for all the services you guys do, all the countless hours that's not paid for. Because a lot of people think that this is a paid position, but we all do it out of the heart. So, want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and as well as all the residents here. I got a couple, I guess, quick questions. I've been reviewing meeting minutes from other boards and commissions. And, I was looking at the November 23rd meeting minutes from the Southern Housing Authority. And, Madam Chair, you were there and you spoke. And when you spoke, you mentioned that the town council appoints the housing commissioners. And I've had people reach out to me about that. And I clarified with them that it's not the council, it is the town manager. So it got me kind of thinking, as well as I know what the practice is. Mark reaches out, to the council and asks, what the recommendations are. But in our charter, it states that the town manager is supposed to do those appointments. So I just think that, again, that's a housing board. It's our seniors, and we should be doing what's best for the residents. So again, some of the things that you stated was that, you are the chair and you appoint in the council. And there's some people that reached out with some concerns about that. So I would love, for maybe the town attorney to look a little bit more into this. I don't think that the town council should be giving the town manager recommendations on who he's supposed to appoint. These are town manager appointments and not the council appointments. We have our own appointments and he has his. And I get it, him maybe asking us for some recommendations, but I think at the end of the day, he should be picking the right candidates to serve on that commission. That's how our democracy is supposed to work. And again, I'm new to this and I get it, but it just seems more like a dictatorship and almost like the good old boy network of who we're going to pick and who goes where. We entrust Mark to do the job that he's hired. He reports to the council, and I don't think we should be tying his hands and doing what we want and playing politics. He should be doing what's best for our community.
I would just like to answer that just for very quickly, Jack, and I understand what your concerns are. But that's how the chairman of the council brings forth a recommendation to the manager. The manager then makes the appointment. Is that correct, Mark? Am I correct in that?
Historically, that's how it's.
That's how it's been. So it doesn't make any difference who sits in the who sits in the chair's chair. That person, whether they're Democrat or Republican, that's how it's always been. So I just want you to understand that there was nothing different than how it's always been to anybody. But certainly, I don't have a problem with Alex looking into it, and that would be fine.
Madam Chair, I have a question. So what is the request really for the town manager, town attorney to look into? What is he going to look into?
Well, if there's a viation in
No, Jack is absolutely correct. It's the manager's ultimate decision to make.
Yeah.
Historically, going back to Mr. Weissel, who was one of the wisest people I ever knew, said to me when I was his assistant, is that yes, I think it's a statute, not necessarily the charter, but the statute gives the manager permission to make those. And his recommendation was, and he always followed that recommendation, is you ask the chair for a name and you give that, so the manager doesn't get involved in the politics of it. That's the way it was. Gary followed that, and I followed that same thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the council wants me to do something differently, that's up to the council.
Can the town manager, Madam Chair, receive more than one recommendation? Can anybody throw a name at the town manager and say, if you're considering this?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
I don't think you've.
It's not. There's certainly nothing that I know of.
Nobody's preventing that, right?
From preventing that at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I'm getting at is, again, Mark, is, supposed to be our town manager, and that's the appointment that he's supposed to. So I think us recommending people for him to interview and find the right people for that board and commission is very important. I just don't want his decision made because you're the chair of the council or the majority. I think it puts him in a tough spot. These are his appointments. We get our appointments. as the council. And I just would love to see, again, the intent here in the state statute, like Mark states, says the town manager, and we should not be influencing his decision on that. You know, we entrust him to be our town manager. We should be entrusting him to pick the right people for that, is what I guess I'm trying to say to answer.
You can look
Mr.
more into
Chaplinsky's.
that if in the future, if you want to, that would be fine to look at. No problem at all.
It's that, you know, again, I just want what's best for our community. You know, I think that's what we owe our town. All of us are elected. Outside of this meeting, we're all one of 9. You know, I've been getting phone calls about what's happening over at the Board of Water Commissioners that, you know, at the last meeting, there's people from the council calling and influencing those board members on how they're going to vote. Again, I don't think that's how, again, they ran for office, they were elected, and for them to, you know, change their votes because their businesses or they're being threatened, and maybe not threatened, but leveraged in certain ways, I don't think is proper. And again, I've even gotten voice recordings from that last meeting where, you know, Mr. Lombardi was mentioned, and as well as you.
Me?
Yes, Ms. Trano, was mentioned that you guys called and influenced votes, and I don't think, again, I will never call anybody.
No, I did not make one
That
phone
is a
call,
terrible allegation.
Mr. Perry.
It's never been done.
So, Madam Chair,
wait,
do you want me
was
to
that at
play
the-
the voice recording?
That was at the minutes?
Go on the record? Because
Well,
I
listen,
do have the voice recording.
If that person is saying that person is mistaken, is what I'm saying. I have never called a member of any commission to tell them how to vote. Never.
So again, the last meeting that I was shared, you know, this voice recording from was very disheartening. So again, I guess that's where I bring up the housing authority as well, is that, again, we should not be influencing any of the intent from our state statute where, you know, our town manager is supposed to be, you know, making that decision. And again, I just want to, again, move forward and just make sure that, again, maybe those allegations aren't correct, but again, I'm just concerned that our town should be working in a democracy and not a good old boys
Well,
network.
it's a very difficult thing, Jack, when you make allegations and they're not true.
So, Madam,
So I'm sitting here and I'm saying to you that you might have heard something about me. Why wouldn't you pick up the phone and ask me?
So, Madam Chair, I had a voice recording sent to me, and people are concerned to speak about this. So I stated that I would
Because why are
mention
they
it at the town council meeting for all of transparency. And like I stated, if you'd like me to play the recording, I can. And again, I'm just
Is the
echoing
person identified on that?
their
The
voice.
person say, this is Bill, this is Joe, this is Jim?
Names are mentioned, and it got heated at that point in time. And again, their names were mentioned, and you could differentiate who's speaking at that point in
Yeah.
time.
Well, I'm telling you that I don't have to listen
So
to
maybe
that
we meet
because it's
outside of the
never-
council, and
Well,
I don't mind sharing the video
I think
or the voice.
grandstanding
Yeah.
during a council meeting, impugning my integrity or any member of this council is in very poor form. If you have something that you have a question about, the right thing to do would be to pick up the phone and say, I've heard these allegations. Did you call? Did you try to influence somebody? I have a voicemail that says you did. That would have been the righteous thing to do.
So, Madam
To
Chair,
grandstand and put me on the defensive, where I have never in my life ever called and told people how to vote. I don't even know what's going on the water board.
so Madam Chair, you've showed up at the Housing Authority.
Yes,
and
I did.
And I want to submit these minutes where you stated you're the council chair and you appoint these people there, and they're there to represent you. So, Madam Chair,
No,
you have.
I'm there to represent them.
So, Madam Chair, I'm going to submit those meeting minutes from the
Fine.
November 23rd meeting where,
Fine.
again, you stated that you were there on behalf of the council and you put these people there to vote for, again, what should be done. So,
Madam Chair, I know that this is councilperson communications, but we're submitting evidence? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it seems that way.
Jack, you want me to submit evidence to the town clerk about? This is already in the minutes. I don't think you need to submit these, right?
well, I like that. And again, if you'd like, I'd play the voice recording. It's 4.5 minutes, and we've
But
talked about
what is
this.
your point?
My point is, again, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and it's also the appointments and how it's being done.
Okay, Madam Chair, I think he made his point about the the way that appointments are being done, and I think you've said that you'll look into it for the future. I think that's.
Well,
I mean, Jack, I'm just not sure where you're going with it. You've made your. I think you've made your point.
The thing is what I'm asking is again, if this behavior is happening, to stop. People have obviously reached out to me and they brought it to my attention, and I get it. There's a lot of people that don't want to talk about this. They don't want to have this hard conversation, and this is very
but we
awkward
didn't
and
have a
difficult
hard conversation.
to
You
talk
brought
about
it and impugned my integrity on the floor.
And
So again, I think
Okay.
it's very important that we are transparent, and like I stated, that people wanted me to mention this and bring it to light and address it at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair.
Sure.
Oh, well, here, let's go.
I didn't have Councilmatic communications. However, I did want to ask Deputy Chief Palmieri to please, on behalf of the town council, thank those 14 officers that volunteered. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't all do it. So if they can find a way to help out in any other way, we would appreciate it. I think that's awesome. So thank you. And then my other comment is I hope the people that are watching really see what's happening here, because this is not right, what's happening tonight. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
On a positive note, I had the privilege of attending a ceremony today with you. It was at Mulberry Gardens. There was 6 couples at Mulberry Gardens who had more than 330 years of marriage combined that decided to renew their vows. And Reverend Triano, Chairwoman Triano, was proceeding over the wedding vow renewal. And it was a packed house. I couldn't believe how many people were there. And it was a beautiful sight. It was about a 30-minute ceremony. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing that. It was really an honor to be a part of that and to give a little bit of recognition on behalf of the town to the
It was nice
to the
having you
many,
there.
many years of service. I think one couple was close to 70 years of marriage, right?
Yes,
It was
yeah.
amazing.
Longer than 70. Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Great. Thanks, Paul, for being there. Anybody else? Okay. Let's move on. We're going to special reports of special committees.
Madam Chair, the Self-Insurance Committee met on February 2nd for 6.5 hours. It was all an executive session, so I won't share any specifics on the meeting, but it was regarding the RFP for the healthcare administrator for the town. And the Self-Insurance Committee is meeting again this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. And that's all I have on self-insurance. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you so much, Tom. Item B, Public Works, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our meeting on Wednesday, the 2nd of February, a couple of brief items. Chief Daly discussed with us that coming soon, Eversource has 3 very large projects where they're going to be replacing some gas lines and gas projects. So more to follow on that. One is happening in the downtown area, which could disrupt some traffic. One of them is on Savage Street, and one of them is on Dickerman Road, Cheshire, which is going to probably affect Clark Street. So more to follow on that. That'll be happening probably in the spring, early summer. So I'll report out when we have more specifics on that information. Through the Highway and Parks Department Division, Ms. Turnquist reported, obviously we've had some snowstorms, and I want to thank our folks from the Highway Department for doing such a great job on covering these storms. And it seems like these storms are always happening overnight or on Sundays, Saturdays, or the weekends, which takes these guys away from their families. So I just want to thank them for their service. The roads have been great. They've been safe. And just let them know that their job is very important and we appreciate all that they do. We talked about some safety on the trails, where there are a couple of pinch points, specifically on Canal Street and Mill Street, which we were talking about maybe enhancing some safety, maybe putting some safety chicanes up. So more to follow on all that as well. Yard metals still is an issue. I know I've talked about it a couple of different times. It's kind of put a stopgap in the continuation of the trail to the Plainville line. So Councilman Chaplinsky and I are trying to broker a meeting with Mr. Turnquist or Mr. Capone with the representatives at Yard Metals to try to figure out a way to come up with a plan to enact this and make it happen. So obviously more to follow on that. And then lastly, Plantsville Safety is on track. Fingers crossed. We're hoping to get a shovel in the dirt, hopefully this spring or summer. Once again, the holdup is the Department of Transportation. I've been saying that. I sound like a broken record the last couple of years, but unfortunately, they still kind of haven't gotten their act together there. So they're still kind of holding things up a little. So more to follow on that as well. And that's all I have to report. Oh, sorry. We are going to be talking later tonight about the detention pond cleaning and inspection, and we selected, we made a recommendation for the council to select the person to do those as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much for all the work you do on that committee and the members of that committee.
I don't know if anyone has any questions,
My
Madam
goodness.
Chair.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank
Great
you, Madam
job.
Chair.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Apple Harvest. Chris, could you give the report on Apple Harvest?
Sure. We had a brief meeting, but a couple things to share. We're continuing the discussion for the tent vendor. Durant's submitted a proposal. They've been with us for many years, so we'll be looking to take action on that in the next meeting. We're also putting out the RFPs and then hopefully act on the refuge dumpster, shuttle bus, and portable restroom vendors at the next meeting. We did approve our beverage vendor for this year's festival, which is Coca-Cola. So thank you to both Coke and Pepsi for submitting proposals. But this year we did award it to Coca-Cola. And then we talked about adding to the to an electrical pedestal to Riccio Way, and that's an improvement that's really needed. And what we do for any type of capital improvement like that, we have a reserve fund, so we'll use the reserve fund to fund that completely, so it doesn't come out of the operational funds for any one-year festival.
Excellent. Yeah,
So-
that's great. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Very good. Open space. Paul.
Yes, Madam Chair, brief report. We did have a quorum issue, so we canceled our regular meeting this past month for open space. However, I'm happy to report that this past week, they've been actively working on the upgrades that we've previously approved to the Grosky barn. So there's a new roof and some fixes to the siding that's being done to ensure that the viability of the building for the future is will be there for many years. So great news there. Looks great. So if you have an opportunity to drive by there, please check it out.
Great. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Val, could you report on the sewer commission?
Sure.
Because Bill's not here.
Everything's moving along fine. The plant upgrade, there was issues with the tanks. That's all we're getting reports on that, and the insurance is all being worked out. So I think that's going to work out fine. The townwide sewer lining is continuing, and then the pump stations, everything's moving along on all of those. So nothing really different to report.
Okay, thanks, Val. Town manager's report.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
I referenced the Board of Finance minutes. The first thing I'll discuss, this is from the February 9th meeting. The meeting was relatively short from a business standpoint. Most of the meeting was the Board of Education's presentation to the Board of Finance on the budget. That was presented. As for stuff that you'll be voting on tonight, I first reference the second page. We talk about revenue. As you know, the town's revenue has been very solid. We were actually quite a bit ahead of our budgeted amount, so I'm happy to say that. Well, the two departments that have been leading the way the whole time have been the building department. They're $190,000 over budget, and the clerk's office is $475,000 over budget. No department is in a deficit situation at this point, so we're doing well there. The only thing of consequence that you'll be acting on tonight is a transfer from the contingency fund to the fire department. Those of you who remember what I put in my budget last year, which the Board of Finance and this board approved, was a contingency line for the fire department. As you remember, I had to do the budget prior to us knowing about the STEPS grant. So what I did is I budgeted 6 months worth of the 3 firefighters in anticipation that we'd be getting them. So I put in contingency. So what happens is that had to come out of contingency, go into the fire department budget. And remember, that's on the expense side. But on the revenue side, as you know, the STEPS grant will be giving us that money back on the revenue side, but it still has to show up in my budget on the expense side. So when you see my budget on Friday, you'll see obviously the fire department's budget goes up quite a bit because of the 3 new officers. But remember, for the next 3 years, as we scale down to not to have a cliff, it'll show up on the revenue side also. Okay.
Very good.
So that's the Board of Finance. Any
plan.
questions on that?
Anybody have any questions for Board of Finance?
The next thing I have, I know Mr. Lombardi will be very excited about this one. We have our energy report, which we try and do at least on an annual basis for you. I'm sorry to say that our current energy consultant is no longer working in this area, so they are not going to be renewing their contract. So we're going out for an RFP for a new energy consultant. So Bill and his group have done a great job for us. So Annette and Bill, if you want to come up and give us your biannual report.
Yeah, did we pay the heating bill in here at all?
Thank you.
Just
I
wondering.
think you went off.
We're conserving.
Right.
That's right.
Winking.
Everybody's putting their coats on.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Councilman, Councilwoman, thank you for having me here tonight to review everything. It's been a pleasure working with you folks and wish you well in your future endeavors. I just want to go over many of the highlights. I don't have a compatible computer, so I apologize. It won't be on the screen, but I will go over some of the highlights.
All of you should have had in
We
your
have the
packet his presentation.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
we have
okay,
that.
great. Perfect, thank you. So as your consultant on energy, we look at a lot of different things, electricity, I should say, natural gas, fuels such as diesel fuel, gasoline. You have a number of solar programs, power purchase agreements where companies come in and install solar at no charge to the town. You receive that energy at a discount to market. So very popular programs. There's other programs with fuel cells and a biopower plant as well. So a lot of different things that the town is undertaking, and some of the results we'll share with you. As of right now, the town, we have 3 separate categories. We have the town, the Board of Education, and the Water District is when we look at electric use and costs. So the town used, going back to fiscal year 2020, a little over 7 million kilowatt hours of power. Fiscal year 21, that dropped to 6.1 million kilowatt hours of power, just about a 13% reduction in energy use. The Board of Education had a increase going from 7 million hours to 7.6 million hours. In the Water District, about a 3% increase going from 2.3 million hours up to 2.4 million hours. On the supply of the electricity, the market is open, so you can competitively bid out for electricity, which the town has done for numerous years. And I'm happy to report that the town has contracted for an extended contract that will bring a reduction to the total expense at a time when energy prices are rising. So the town went out a little over a year ago to lock in energy prices. During the pandemic, prices were down, energy use, a lot of companies were closed, business was off, so energy prices were down. So the town went out, locked in prices, and you're going to start to see the benefit of those prices. They went into effect in December of 21, so we're just a couple of months in. Rates went from, at the town, 8.9 cents, call it roughly 9, down to 7.3 cents. The same thing with the Board of Education. The Water District is slightly higher at 7.5 cents. Rates were roughly about 9 cents. So a fairly substantial reduction that's going into effect for calendar year 2022. And that will go through and carry for basically for 3 years that you're locked in at those rates. So you will not see any increase in your electric rates going
Let me
forward.
just stop you there, Bill, for a second. It's important to know that having an energy consultant, this is why it's important. I wish I can say that Amelia, Annette and I look at this stuff every day. We don't. So what happened was during the pandemic, which of course is a horrific time in our lives, there was opportunities. And Bill and his group came to us during the real bottom of the pandemic and said, well, now would be a good time for you to look at your resources, electricity, gas, et cetera. So that's when we did it. I wish I could say I was smart enough to think of it on my own. That I did not. They came to me and said, let's look at this stuff. And we were able to strike while the iron was hot. And I think in this particular case, great job on there because we are saving a ton in electric fuel.
So Bill, I have a question for you on that.
Sure.
So the price that we see here, 8.9 or 9 cents going to 7.3 or 5. Is that generation and delivery? There's no delivery, right? Because the delivery
No,
is...
there's two parts to the to your price policy, correct? So you have delivery and supply. Delivery is always the utility, so Eversource, the public utility, still delivers the building. You pay a cost for that. That averages somewhere between 5 and 6 cents a kilowatt hour. Those rates are set by the utility, but approved by the state.
Okay, so this number includes delivery.
It does not.
This
So
is
you
only
pay
generation charge.
Generational.
So that brings up my question. So, for as an example, I like to surf the CT Energize CT site and choose my own delivery provider,
sure.
or generation provider rather. And I've for over a year plus, I've been getting rates that are below 7 cents. I just renewed this past fall for 12 months, and my rate is 6.9 cents for generation. So I'm curious how is that? And I would expect that with a solar program, we'd be even more favorable than that. So how is this rate more expensive than what we're getting as residents on the open market?
The open market is different today than where it was a year or 2 years ago.
Even 3 months ago, it was. I noticed today's rates are almost 11 cents for generation.
Correct.
At the good for the cheaper suppliers. So, but still, this past fall. So, was this negotiated 3 years ago?
This was negotiated back in the spring of 2020. But
It still seems similar to what most people could get. It doesn't seem like it's a significant discount.
Well, it is a pretty substantial discount to where you are if you were in the open market today. So the purchases were made in the spring of 2020 for a December 21 start date. So it was for 18 months in advance versus buying today for, say, delivery next month.
So I understand your comment. You're saying that spring of 2020 in the open market for generation fee, 8.9 cents.
That's where you were previously.
That's where we were previously. So 7.3 spring of 2020 is
Or a December 21 start date.
is much more favorable than what the open market was getting.
If you're looking at the price in the spring of 2020 for a 2020
Right,
purchase,
yeah, I understand.
yes, the prices would have been less expensive, but we weren't buying for 2020. We were buying for 2021 and beyond. It was a 36-month contract, so that carries you out not only for 22, but it carries you for 23 and 24.
What do you think the discount was for open market at the time? For that same
Back
term?
then,
Yeah.
prices were probably in the sixes, I would say, if you were just buying so-called on the spot market at that time because of the reduction in energy use because of the pandemic. So prices were very inexpensive going back a year and a half
I
ago.
mean, generally speaking, they're low. Okay.
Yeah,
Good, thanks.
absolutely, no question about it.
I got a quick question. So just to clarify, we were still under a previous service or purchase agreement.
Correct.
And this one that you negotiated in spring of 2020 just started pretty much a couple months ago.
Correct.
So now, when you're doing that, because I do this with our diesel fuel, I own a refuse company, and we do the same thing with our diesel fuel. We're buying futures. So
Sure.
is that pretty much what this is? So you're
Exactly
paying a
what it is.
premium at that point to buy longer term?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you're locking into a price in the forward market based on those conditions at that time.
Are they futures or?
They're futures, yes.
Okay.
Futures for electricity in this case.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions on that?
Thanks.
No? Okay. On natural gas, our recommendation historically has been to remain with the utility. Rates in the open market were more expensive than what you could get for the utility. So we made that recommendation. We continue to make that recommendation. The local utility rates have gone up this winter, much like you see with diesel fuel and gasoline and home heating oil. Natural gas rates have come up quite a bit, but we anticipate that you'll see a reduction this summer. Historically, utility rates do go down in the summertime during the off-peak season. So it's our recommendation at this time to continue with the utility. Similar to what we did with electricity, you could look at pricing in the forward market to lock in a rate, which at this time would still be relatively high. So again, up to the council to decide what they want to do, but our recommendation would be to remain with the utility, wait till things settle down. There are a lot of geopolitical events happening at this time that have driven prices substantially higher, so it would be our recommendation to kind of stay on the sidelines. On fuel oil, you do have locked in some pricing. You were looking at increases again going back to 2020 when prices were relatively inexpensive. You were paying on gasoline as low as $1.19 and on diesel fuel as low as $1.40. Those rates are going up to $2.08 and $1.97. So we're seeing substantial increases in those costs, but still well below what you're seeing in the open market today. So you're in relatively good shape there. Historically, diesel fuel and gasoline, it's much harder to lock in multi-year contracts, especially years into the future, where electricity and natural gas is a much more transparent, I shouldn't say transparent, but it's a much more active market. So it's easier to lock in longer terms and for further times out into the future than you do with diesel fuel and gasoline. So they tend to be more yearly contracts.
I got a quick question,
Sure.
Madam Chair. Can I
Yes.
ask you a question? On the diesel fuel, so when did we, or when did you guys lock in those agreements? Just curious.
I believe I was not handling the account at the time, but everything we show here was in the spring of 2020. That's when the market bottomed out. That was when we made our recommendations.
And when is that locked in until?
It's locked until the end of the current fiscal year, 2022 current fiscal year.
Okay. Yeah, those are definitely very good rates. Yeah. Because diesel today is, without tax, a volume discount's like $3.21 a gallon. You know, and there's over $1 savings there, which is massive.
Yeah, the town's done a very good job with that. Also, this town is involved in a lot of solar projects with rooftop units on some of the schools and things like that. So you have made agreements to purchase that power, again, at a discount to what you would pay if you were buying from the utility or even through the contracts that we have locked you in, because you save not only on the cost of the power, but on the delivery, because you don't have to pay for that delivery cost that gets added back in. So far this year, or over the last 2 years, just cumulatively, between the various schools, the middle school and the elementary schools, the cumulative savings over the last 2 years is $150,000 compared to if you were paying the fixed prices that we had negotiated, plus the delivery that you pay to Eversource. Your rates are all in around 13.5 to 14 cents a kilowatt. On the agreements that you have, you're paying all in somewhere in the mid-eights. There's a slight increase every year based on the agreements that were put in place. Started out at 8 cents. They top out in about 5 years at 8.7 cents. Some of the schools started a couple of years later. You started at 8.5 cents, going to 9.3 cents. That is for both supply and delivery, well below what you'd be paying in the open market. So again, saving a tremendous amount of money through those programs. To the best of my knowledge, no expense to the town whatsoever for any of these programs.
We like to
Just
call
straight
it
savings.
cost avoidance.
You also have a fuel cell in place that generates some savings or cost avoidance, I guess, because you're creating your own electricity there. Those savings vary from month to month based on the amount of energy that's produced, but anywhere from a few $1,000s a month to up to $5,000 or $6,000 a month is what you're saving in avoided cost through those programs as well. There's a biopower plant where you're using food waste to generate electricity. The greater the amount of food waste that you have, the more electricity produced, the greater the savings to the town. This past year, with COVID, there was less fuel generated, so therefore the savings were less, but it's still no cost to the town. It's just a pure savings. $25,000 in fiscal year 20 was saved. This past year, only around $4,500, but that had to do with the fact that the plant ran less. I think there might have been some maintenance issues with the plant as well, but not 100% sure on that. Then there's some other new projects that are coming, again, approved at the state level, what they refer to as community solar, where you're able to buy electricity virtually through other solar arrangements. You get a credit on your utility bill, and you pay for those credits, and you get a discount averaging about 10% right now. The town is currently reviewing that. There's several offers out there where you can take advantage of these programs. So for every $1,000 in credits that are created, the town would have to pay $900, a net savings, 10%. Cost nothing to the town. Highly recommend that you do that. Makes a lot of sense. It's so-called free money that's out there, that's available, and certainly should be looked at in greater detail.
There's currently a bill in Hartford to expand virtual net metering. We've been kind of capped on that for a little bit.
That's correct.
So I know that you follow it, and the councils, most of them follow it also, is that there seems to be a push right now to get that cap up, so the municipalities such as Southington, who's currently maxed out on virtual
Correct.
net metering, we want to jump on these immediately. In fact, we're in touch with most of these people, except right now we're capped. But I think Hartford will come to the rescue for us and remove the cap.
Yeah, the state has set limits, and every year or two, they increase the limits. So they sell out basically right away. And then the programs get built up, people get the credits, and then they increase the allotment. And you'll continue to see that some of the savings drop over time. So we saw savings, 15%, 20% going back several years ago. Now they're in the 10% range. As soon as those become available, highly encourage you to do that. Future programs might be in the 7 to 8% range is what we're hearing. So definitely well worth pursuing. So that's pretty much the highlights on the energy programs. I know we've had some questions, but feel free.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, please, Mike.
A constituent reached out to me questioning actual costs, if you have it, for the couple of electronic vehicle charging stations that we have in town. We have one at the library, we have one outside. This person was surprised that it wasn't only for town vehicles. He saw private vehicles plugged into it. So, I know we got, I inquired with the town manager, and I got some information back about how much it costs to charge each vehicle. But what I'm looking for is what it costs on an annual basis, or what it's costing the town to run these two charging stations.
Yeah, that I don't know. I have looked into it. I did get a request from Annette that to look into it. I've got a couple of calls into some of the EV charging stations that we work with to see what a typical cost
That's what I'm
is.
looking for.
And it really comes down to
Ballpark.
how many cars are using it.
That's right. Is there a meter on these charging stations
is
that
not.
tells?
Something that you may want to look at doing is putting in a sub-meter where you can see how much electricity is actually being used to quantify what that cost is. So it probably would make sense to do that, especially as more and more people buy electric cars over the course of the next several years. People may see an opportunity to take advantage of that free electricity there, and it could get very expensive. So you
These are
probably want to look
obtained
at
through
it.
a state grant, so it's not like we could put a meter. I mean, we could put a meter to figure out how much electricity we use, but we couldn't put a meter so they could put their
They
credit
could
card
check.
into it. We couldn't
Yeah.
do that. But these are all state grant ones. But yeah, so I know that Mr. Del Santo contacted me and I contacted Net. So I don't know what the average cars per year for that would be, but we have an estimate of what each car takes to charge. So I'm not sure how we get the next figure. So if you can find that out.
Yeah, I will. I know Eversource just released a program here in Connecticut where they'll pay $20,000 for the installation of charging stations. So if you wanted to look at installing additional charging stations, you could, and they would be, basically swipe a credit card so anybody that, stops could fill up, but they would pay on their own dime and it wouldn't cost the town anything at all. So Eversource is running some programs right now. I'll send some additional details on that. They literally released it last week. So that might be something.
I appreciate any information you could forward to us about the
Absolutely.
two stations that we have. Thank you very
We'll
much.
pull that together for you.
Thanks.
So any other questions?
Any other questions?
Can I just ask though on that, Mark, do we know what other towns are doing? Kind of like our size
Well, the,
towns or?
Well, I can tell you that the probably the most cutting edge one, and it was done mainly through GE, but Plainville has a fantastic one. It's on private property, but any car is allowed to go in there, and they're solar powered. I believe they probably have a regular backup, but they're all solar powered. If you ever saw it up, it's right up
By
on
GE,
Route 10
right?
by GE. The whole roof has got solar on it, and then there's probably 12, 15 stations. I don't know how many there are, but that's cutting edge, and that's a private partnership with the town. We obviously, if it's at no cost to the private property owner, we could probably put programs together with most of the large strip malls in town who would love to do that. I know that Stop and Shop has already done it.
Yes.
They
Right,
have probably
Yeah.
a half dozen of them up there now.
I saw one
They
in
do. They-
Manchester, one of the plazas. There's probably a dozen of them set up in one area.
The governor in his budget also has a substantial amount of money for stations such as this. His is more toward putting them on the roadways so that cars coming through Connecticut have known stops on where they can charge. And with the technology now, it's 10 years ago, or when we first got when did we first get our car? Was it 10 years ago now? 10 years ago,
Yeah.
it would be an overnight charge. You'd have to charge it all night.
Right.
Now I'm hearing you can charge them in less than an hour if you got the powerhouse
amazing.
one. So the technology is there. It's just a matter of us putting it in place. And I know that the governor is very big on that. And although the infrastructure bill is out, it's been passed by the federal government. That has money in it for that too, but we don't know where that's coming from yet because the regs haven't been written on it. It hasn't been funded yet, and the regs haven't been written other than that.
Correct. There will be more coming on that, and I think there'll be money available, but,
Yeah.
to be determined for sure.
Interesting.
If there's nothing else, I just want to thank Bill and your group for the last couple of years that you've been
Yeah.
our consultant. I know that I
you.
bothered you on more times than I can count.
No worries at all. Here, that's what we're here to do. We enjoyed working with you folks. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
you,
so
Bill.
much,
Thank you.
Bill.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Very good.
Madam Chair, as Mr. Del Santo mentioned, the Public Works Committee, that put out the RFP, and the Public Works Committee is recommending to you tonight for the detention pond inspection cleaning for the years 2022 through 2025 at an hourly rate of $365 be awarded to Merrick Brother Construction out of Southington, Connecticut. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the town manager? No, thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. And the next item is our town attorney's report. I want to just say a few things before Alex takes over. Item A is a charter revision procedure, and I've asked Alex to explain that to all of us because we intend to, there is a pressing issue that we intend to look at, and next, in our next meeting, we hope to establish a charter revision committee. I will say that we are looking for a small committee that is very focused and with a limited time frame. So having said that, Alex, why don't you go ahead and explain to us about charter revision, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, all. So the Charter Revision Committee it's a creature of Connecticut statute. So in your packets, I've laid out a brief outline that summarizes how it goes about. There's two different ways. As some of you have been around for a while, you'll remember 2010, there was a petition by the public. And then more recently, 2013, the town council voted by 2/3 majority to hold another Charter Revision Committee. So 7-188 says that 2/3 of this committee, the town council vote by resolution, then you will open up and create a charter revision commission. Once that's done, you will form the committee. That's no less than 5 people and no more than 15 people. It has to be a bare minimum of one political party. So the second you get over that 50% threshold, you can't have any additional people in that party. And 1/3 of those people maximum can hold public office. So 2/3 of those people cannot hold any other public office within this municipality itself. Once that's done, this body will give what's called a charge to the commission. And the commission will study and review and make recommendations as to any issues that are brought to their attention. Now, that doesn't mean that the commission can't look at other things. They have the ability to look at anything they want, but specifically, they do have to look at what was charged by the town council. Everything's transparent, everything's open. There's no executive session. There are public hearings. There's a minimum of 2 public hearings. Once the commission creates a draft proposal, they submit that to the town council for review. The town council and there'll be a meeting with the town council and commission. Town council, if they don't want to make any changes, they say this is great, and they want to put it to the voters, it's over, it's final. If they want to make changes, they have recommendations, they send those back to the commission. Commission can say, I like your recommendations, we're going to adjust this, or they can say, no, we're leaving it as it is, and we're sending it back to you. And then at that point, the town council can decide, take a vote of the majority, decide to send it to the electors in the general election. That's a very brief and high-level overview. Are there any questions on that really high-level process? I know a lot of you.
I do. I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, not so much about the process.
Okay.
I brought this up at the last meeting. Jack, Val, and I are still not aware of why we need a charter revision. You mentioned there's a pressing issue. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, and you know what? I wanted to just at this meeting get the lay of the land, and then at our next meeting we can talk about what issues we have. I think it's premature to do that at this juncture. So, so for today, I would just like us to get an overview of what a charter revision committee does, and I do believe that our intent is to open the charter with a small, focused committee.
So I respectfully disagree. I think we're a council of 9. So the conversation should be held amongst 9 of us. If you have thoughts for what you want to do, that's fine. I mean, there's 6 of you, there's only 3 of us, but I have no knowledge of any issues that we're interested in opening the charter. And frankly, I can think of one example I want to open up is look at the minority representation, because we've seen it time and time again. I don't think it's truly in the spirit and intent of the charter. And our town attorney has shared with us that it really speaks more to the majority party than the minority party. And I think maybe that could be a potential change that could be suggested. So I'm publicly stating that's something that we've discussed potentially with the charter, but I have not heard anything.
Right. And at our next meeting, that can be brought up. We can discuss what's going to be brought up.
But wouldn't you want the whole council seeing
and
as...
at that time, we're going to just talk about things, Chris. I think it's very important for us to understand, you have our intent. So my suggestion is to look at the charter, and we will discuss it at our next meeting. I don't want to take the time at this meeting with this heavy agenda with a lot of issues.
I understand. So I guess we'll look at issues that we want to address, and you can look at issues you'd want to address, and I'd rather do that collaboratively, which is why I'm reaching out. I'm telling you one of the issues that we have, but
Sure.
I'm not hearing that. Like, I would rather work collaboratively beforehand than react afterwards.
Well, there's not a closing date of collaboration. I mean, like I said, we're going to talk in 2 weeks, Chris.
All right.
All right?
I just don't agree, but...
Okay.
Madam Chair? Oh. Madam Chair, I got to back up Councilman Palmieri on this. You obviously know what the intent is. We're a body of 9. And this gets back to, again, a dictatorship. This is not democracy. Southington needs to wake up. This is not a democracy. You know what your intent already is. Why is it a secret? Hang on, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have the floor. Madam Chair, I have the floor. This is our community, and I live in it, and I'm concerned about our future generations. This is like our Constitution that we are opening up. Should not be a secret. This should be transparent. And it gets back to my earlier argument that things aren't happening transparent. The town attorney already says we only need 2/3 of the council. The 6 Republicans could say we want to open up the charter. We can't say anything. We could rally the town, they come out and vote and shoot it down. But this is not democracy. This secret, we'll tell you later. There's 9 of us here. We're grown adults. We're all representing this town. And if people don't think there's something wrong with this, this is not why I ran for office. To then say here, Madam Chair,
Madam Chair, we are in town attorney's report.
Madam Chair,
quickly, it's my report.
We're in town attorney's report, Jack.
And I know that, Madam Chair, you made some comments about what we're going to do, but I just want to keep it in line. I can say for the record, I don't know what the intent is. I'm just briefing on the issue.
Yes, because it's not
I know
time.
Mr. Palmieri brought up, and it was absolutely proper, but I just don't want us to get off track.
This is just frustrating that this is not transparent.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Councilman Perry has brought up a lot of statements this evening that are very misleading to the public. As the town attorney mentioned, there will be public hearings. We will discuss a specific charge at the next meeting. We don't make the decision on anything. We put forth an issue and the voters vote at a referendum. So for you to come up here and call this a dictatorship is completely unacceptable. To demean my integrity and Councilwoman Triano's is unacceptable. And I hope that the public is going to see your behavior tonight more so than anything else. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm going to get back to my
Yes,
agenda,
please do,
please.
Alex. Yeah, attorney.
Unless there are any more questions on the procedures.
Yeah, Alex, can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely.
So if there is, just give me an example. If there's, let's say there's a 15-member charter revision committee, how would that be made up? You cannot have, what is the bare majority?
Are you talking about the minority representation?
Yes, yes,
So bare, but you'd be able to have, out of 15, you'd have 8 maximum of one party.
of one party.
That's the first line you hit over the bare majority. 7, you'd be a minority.
And then also with that, you'd have no more than a third.
No more than 5.
5 can be is it
officials.
elected?
Elected.
Is it an elected official? No
I
more than
was just
5
going to ask that
can be an
question.
elected?
Elected official from the town of Southington.
What about an appointed, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
jump
it's
in,
okay.
Val, but
And
what
that's
about
why I
someone
brought
who's
the
appointed?
regulations with me, and it is a public office. So an
So-
election,
So that's an
So-
elected office, correct? It's not an appointed position.
yes.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
So Madam Chair, when you say you're thinking of a small, when you want a focus group, are you talking about a smaller commission?
Yeah, on the smaller
Charter
side,
revision.
yes. That's what I'm thinking.
Like how many?
Well, I don't know actually at this point in time, but it would be probably less than 10.
If you'd like our input, we can help you map that out.
Well,
but
we can
that's my
certainly
point.
talk about it. But I do want to say minority representation to me is representing the voters. And so we have the largest constituency of unaffiliates. And then actually you guys come before us in terms of numbers. But I do want representation, and I do want us to flow together, Chris.
And that's all I'm asking for.
Yep.
I mentioned it. The only reason I even knew it 2 weeks ago was because I happened to see the minutes that were on the dais before us that night.
Right.
And
I wanted you to know last meeting, and we're talking about the foundations this meeting.
But you didn't bring it up last meeting. I read it in the minutes that were in front of us. That's why I brought it up at the last meeting.
Because it was discussed and you brought it up. Yes, I'm saying yes. So we did talk a little bit about it last meeting. This meeting, we're talking about foundational things. And the next meeting, I hope to form the committee.
I understand. I just feel like it's
Yeah.
going to be formed how you want it, and it's our input's going to be minimal. So it's frustrating. That's all.
Are there any other questions on the?
Madam Chair, may I say something? I've really been biting my tongue this whole meeting. So there's a supermajority on all major boards in this town. The voters spoke. I don't understand why it needs to be continued to be explained that there's a 6-3 supermajority. So we can discuss things. We don't need input or help from the minority on how many members should serve on this committee. I certainly know that. So it's going to be a long year and a half to go. We are 4 months into it. Supermajority, 6-3, Republican-led supermajority.
So with due respect, that's the problem.
Okay.
Right.
That's the attitude. We know we lost, right? We lost big. We understand that.
Are you sure, Val? I mean,
Yeah.
all three of you know you lost over there?
Well, you know what? That's the problem right there.
Okay.
We lost big, and all you can say is work harder. To the victor go the spoils. So all these boards and commissions you take every possible spot you can take. You're not going with the intent of the minority statute.
It's a small window of time, Val. We only have 2 years to do everything we can for what's best for this town.
So what's best for the town is for the 6 of you to make all the decisions,
No,
fill all the
not
boards
at
and
all.
commissions.
Not
But
at
that's
all.
what you're saying.
It is
That's
not
what you just
what I'm
said.
saying.
That's what you
Madam
just
Chair, I
said.
think we should have some order.
Karen, bring it
Let's go to
back.
the next topic.
Or,
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
please.
yeah. Any other questions on the overriding procedures, just the procedures?
I have a question. So from the start to finish of this, what is the time frame of this? Is there any rules on how long this could be open for? And
Yes.
I guess that would be my concern. Like, how fast will this move?
Absolutely. So it's outlined in the memo that's in your agenda, but there are deadlines. So if the town council was to appoint a charter revision committee, say May 1st, 2021, within 30 days, the commission would have to be appointed in the charge provided to that commission. They have a maximum of 16 months to report back. They have the town council can mandate an early report back. And then once that procedure, the overview that I talked about was done back and forth with the council, it goes to typically the next general election. And it's done just like any other election. There's newspaper postings, all that public outreach has to be accomplished. And then it's put on a ballot just like the last November we had the library. So it's the same exact thing. So for instance, the last referendum that was put in 2013 had 3 separate questions on it. 2 of them failed, 1 of them passed. So it's not like it's an all for nothing. The electors actually can choose issue by issue if the Charter Revision Commission decides, and then the town council decides they both decide to put those on the ballots.
So is there a minimum of how long this commission would have to meet?
As far
You
as
mentioned there's a maximum of 16 months, but it could be granted, did you say longer or shorter?
16 months is the maximum amount of time.
Maximum. So what's the shortest amount of time this commission can meet? Because obviously this is, again, our charter is like our constitution of our town. It's all of our rules. It's our Bible.
I'm just going to check the statute really quickly. No minimum, however, with those 2 public hearings, they have to wait a minimum, they have 15 days after the second public hearing to bring the draft to the town council. So they have to do 1 public hearing prior to doing any substantive work. So before the meet and greet public hearing, and then prior to bringing the town council a proposal, they have to have a minimum one more public hearing.
Now,
As far as, can it be done in 2 weeks? They don't talk about, the law doesn't talk about that.
so another question I have, when the that commission meets, what is the vote need to be for it to pass out of that commission? Is it 2/3 as well?
It's a majority.
Majority.
Actually, it is.
It's a majority.
It's a majority.
It's right here.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. Any other questions on the procedures?
Thank you.
Hearing none, I'm going to move on to letter B, my second item, Library Building Committee. I think everybody here has already knows what I'm going to talk about. Mr. Panlari brought this to our attention a few weeks back, and as it currently stands, there's a 7 out of 3 majority on the Library Building Committee. So I'm going to ask that the town council bring up on its agenda to fix this section 204 violation by either adding a non-Republican member or removing a Republican member. And I believe that's been added on the agenda. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Part C, in your package again, you will see a proposed addition to chapter 144 of the town's charter, seal and ordinance, seal and flag. This, if the council would like to tonight, can schedule a public hearing for this ordinance, and the public and the ordinance is basically to set out and limit the flags that the town will fly on all public municipal buildings in the town of Southington. There's also some recent Supreme Court articles in there to give you a sense of maybe, I won't say, but what I believe to be the motivation of this proposal. Any questions on C? Yes, Mr. Palmero?
I don't know if Vicky, it may be more for you. I'm wondering if we're proposing an ordinance change, why it's not going to the ordinance committee. Like just tonight, we had, this week we had an emergency open space meeting to talk about something that was going to be brought to the council. And typically, we put any items that pertain to subcommittees of the council through the subcommittee. So this has not been vetted through the ordinance committee. Again, it's a little bit more open a committee before it comes back to the town council. So I'm wondering why this isn't being planned to be brought back, and if we can bring it to the ordinance committee first and then bring it back to the council as we do with any other item.
I can say that the ordinance committee is a subcommittee of the chair. It's not required. However, it's absolutely allowable.
Yeah, I mean, all the subcommittees are council subcommittees, but we've gone through, like I said tonight, open space. We had a special meeting of open space, vetted it, brought it forward to the council. So I'm just wondering if the plan is to bring this to the ordinance committee before we schedule a public hearing.
May I speak to that, Alex?
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I just felt that it's a very small change in the article, and that we will schedule a public hearing rather than making the public go through 2 public hearings. So I felt that it was perfectly within our purview to be able to do this. This is, as I said, is very simple, very clear, and they would have to do a public hearing anyway. So we'll just do the public hearing. That's all.
So again, I don't know anything about this other than what was here. Again, we weren't part of any discussion. And again, at least going through a committee, it does add other voices besides just the council, gives different perspectives, so that when it does go to the public hearing, and that isn't a public hearing, that's just a public meeting, so people don't need to attend it. And then the council can move it forward to a public hearing. That would be my suggestion based on everything we do as a council.
Thank you, Chris.
Madam Chair, can I ask,
Yes,
Alex,
sure.
I have a few questions. So in proposing this, are we following the policies and procedures
Well, that's what I asked
Of
Alex
the-
about.
of the council,
Um,
right? I mean,
violating any I know of.
no, but that's what we would be following, right? We would be following these, for ordinances and resolutions, this is what we would be following to put forth a proposed ordinance,
Correct. And
right?
then we'd be following our ordinance and charter as far as the public hearing goes.
Right, right. So I guess I have the policies and procedures, so I have a couple questions. In preparation and introduction of a ordinance, the town attorney shall, on request of the town manager or council, prepare an ordinance and resolution. So I'm assuming, Alex, you prepared it?
I did.
Okay. All ordinances and resolutions shall be introduced in the council in printed or written form, which it is, with the name of the council member introducing same endorsed thereon. So the first question I have is, who is the council member that is introducing it, and why is their name not endorsed on it?
I don't have a specific council person that requested I introduce it. I'm happy to amend it and get a name for you.
Okay, so that I'm just following, so everybody knows, I'm just following our policies and procedures for the town council.
Madam Chair, if it helps, there's 2 articles here. We can either do, I don't know if it needs to be done by an ordinance. It can be a town council policy, but I can put my name on C and D if that helps keep things moving today.
Well, that's not what our policies and procedures say. Our policies and procedures say that what is given to us, what is proposed, needs to be done in a particular way. And this is the way it's supposed to be done. Right?
So, Val, I'm not sure. Are you saying it needs to be done in writing?
Well, that's what it says. I mean, what's presented to us is basically a couple sentences. And Madam Chair, I don't think it's just an easy thing that we're going to do, because I have a lot of questions about it. So I think it needs to be done following our policies and procedures. The second paragraph that is important is that there's a review. And it says, before any ordinance shall be acted upon, it shall be reviewed by, and such corrections as may be necessary made therein by the town attorney. to ensure accuracy, clearness, conciseness, and the consistency of text and phraseology, as well as its constitutionality and consistency with existing ordinances or statutes, and the copy of the ordinance upon which final action is based shall bear his or her endorsement that such review has been made. So the question I have is, there's a number of things in here that we would want to maybe have a purpose for this ordinance. When you look at our ordinances and most of our ordinances and resolutions that are in the charter have a purpose. They set out a purpose. They have definitions. I'm looking at the second sentence, which says, this ordinance shall not prohibit the hanging of youth sports teams or school flags at youth sporting events or at public schools. So I would think we would need a lot of definitions in there. What constitutes youth sports teams? Right? Can it be any youth sports team, whether it's town run or a private youth sports? What constitutes a school flag? What if a school decides to have a special day, have a special flag for Martin Luther King Day, or celebrate diversity, or celebrate their teachers? So does that constitute a school flag? And so that flag doesn't have to fall under this. Should there be, a purpose section is really important for our residents. If we're going to put forth the ordinance, what is the purpose of this ordinance? Because I'm sure there are a number of residents that will want to look at this and review this. I've written down a ton of different questions. If a youth sports team or a school flag is going to be flown, is there a process by which that school is going to be required to say why the flag should be flown? What if there is a youth sports event downtown? Does that mean that they get to fly a flag at the town green or on the town hall? So I understand that this seems to be something very simple, but looking at it from a legal perspective, no, it is not simple. And I think we need to follow. We've all signed these policies and procedures. I think we need to be following these. And if we follow them, then, we get a final version, right? And that's the final version. And then that goes to a public hearing. And then we can talk about it. The other thing too, I don't know that there's an urgency to this. Madam Chair, you left me a phone message that said, this is something you've been working on for over a month with the town attorney. Right. Well, we didn't know about it. Here it is again. Mm-hmm. We had no knowledge of that until you left me a phone message a few days ago. So, we're looking at this, and to me, there's no urgency for this. It's something that can be worked on in a bipartisan manner. Work on it together. Let's do it the right way. I talked with the town manager this morning, and we talked about, I asked him how many flags have been requested to fly, at any of our town buildings. So we have had the Greek Independence Day flag since the days of Mr. Weichsel, and that flag flies every March 21st at the town hall. Mm-hmm. We had a flag in 2014 for organ donors. I think that flew at the town hall. And we had a flag last year for Southington Pride, which flew here at the Municipal Center. And there was one other one. Nurses
flag.
So if you look at, I understand that the case was put there, the City of Boston case, that seems to be the impetus maybe for some of the angst of things that could happen, but we're not the City of Boston. And the City of Boston had, in a 12-year period, 284 requests to raise flags for different events. Very different situation. the city of Boston has 3 flagpoles where at City Hall they fly the American flag, they fly the state of Massachusetts flag, and then they fly a 3rd flag, which is typically the city of Boston, and then these events or groups that want to fly flags. So that's where this case is stemming from. We can look at the case, and there's obviously solutions that can be looked at. There's a process that can be looked at. So there's options rather than go straight to let's prohibit everything except the 4 flags. But we have this exception for, youth sports teams and sporting events, which can open a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I agree, by the way.
So, I'm just trying to put it out there that I think we need to follow our policies and procedures. We need to work together in a bipartisan manner. I'd be happy to work on it with someone from the majority, because we can't make these rules up as we go. And
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I agree with you, Val. I think I agree with you on some of what you said. So I respect the policies and procedures and a lot of the points that you made. When I looked at this, you make a mention of a couple things that I wanted to clarify. You talked about providing the actual ordinance. I think what you were saying is the whole ordinance should be written out for review. And what's going to be changed, when I saw that it states Chapter 144, seal and flag, and then it goes through 144-1, the new proposed, I had assumed that was that satisfied that. So I was also unsure what you were talking about. But as you spoke, I think you meant we should actually have the written ordinance here.
well, we should have, I looked at the, I have it right here, Chapter 144. It doesn't Chapter 144 talks about the town seal.
Right.
Talks about reproduction of the town seal, permission to use the town seal. So now all of a sudden we have something about flying the flags.
Right. Article 3 is a new.
Article 3 would
it's
be
the
a new article.
correct.
And so very similar to, we have the restrictions on the use of tobacco and cannabis type, same thing, same questions I'm going to raise about the next ordinance. But when this ordinance was done for tobacco use and nicotine, if you look at it, it has a huge amount of purpose, legislative authority, definitions, so that residents know when we're setting up a new ordinance or adding to, they understand what the purpose is. Why are we doing this? What does it pertain to? Why does that benefit our residents? So, yes, Paul, I understand what you were doing. You're adding Section 144, Article 3, but I think this section, if we're going to do something that important, should have its own purpose and should have its own definitions, and then it should go into when what flags are going to be flown, and is there a process for flying the flags and taking everything from there.
And just to be clear, though, not every single item in the ordinance has a purpose. There are sections that have a purpose.
Right,
so
right,
just to
but
be clear, just so it's not, let me just finish. It's not misleading to the public.
No,
it doesn't necessarily have to have its own purpose.
It doesn't, no,
What
it
you're
doesn't.
stating is an opinion, so I respect
Absolutely,
it. But I just want to make sure that it's clear to
Absolutely.
everybody
I just
else.
think this is something that's very important for
fair,
our town.
fair. And just for the
Yep, no,
context,
I agree with
the articles that you referenced that were given out to all of the counselors that we have is that there's a Supreme Court case in Boston about a request for a Christian flag to be flown, and the town's refusal to fly the Christian flag. And there's some argument and debate within the city about whether the city should, what actions the city takes and how those actions are taken can be constituted to allow the residents to use public property for free speech versus the government taking a position on an issue or whatever it is and actually exempting themselves from the free speech clause and flying that on behalf of the government. And so that was the context that was provided to all of the counselors. We're not in the section. Unfortunately, we keep getting interrupted during the town attorney's report. This really should be discussed later in the meeting, but I'm happy,
This was to
Madam
the
Chair,
process. My questions originally were to the process.
Yes, fair enough. I support that. So to that end, if we can talk about this here, but just so everybody knows, there is a council member, and Mike, I don't know if you're Okay, but there have been other requests to council members. I'll give you an example. There have been requests for flying, for example, a Second Amendment flag at town to councilors. And sometimes those don't make it to the town manager because, somebody says, hey, maybe that's not the role that government should be playing. So that has happened to another councilor here, Mike. And that combined with what's going on in Boston. And then, of course, you've got everything that's going on with the around the world. You have the religious flag in Boston. So I think that was the impetus of this. But I am okay with, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I will suggest taking this back and sending it through and making sure there's clarifications and it walks through the process. Val,
Should the process be, should it go to the ordinance committee first?
I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that.
Should it be rewritten in a bipartisan manner and then go to the ordinance committee and then come back here?
Either way, I haven't heard the ordinance committee put one of these out recently, so I'm not sure exactly.
Well, we'd have to send it to the ordinance committee.
Yeah, we could. No, what I meant was, should we write it and then send it to the ordinance committee,
Well, I
or
think
should we have the ordinance committee write it and then
I think we
propose
should
it?
rewrite it.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
It goes to the ordinance committee.
Madam Chair,
Okay with that?
Councilwoman DiPaolo I'm totally fine with her suggestion, but I will say this, that I am 100% in favor of keeping this statement simple and clear, because just in a 15-minute discussion that it wasn't even a discussion because not all of us spoke, but there's a lot of different flags that we may agree with or disagree with. There's a lot of divisiveness. And I think if the town keeps it simple and clear, it will be very beneficial for our residents, and we can focus on running the government of the town and avoid I don't think it would get to the level that Boston got to, but I think it would avoid these situations from coming up. To reiterate, I support your idea.
And I would agree with that. You have it, it's very simple. I can't find my copy right now, but your second sentence raises all kinds of issues.
Let's take it out.
Well, that could be an option.
Yeah, right.
That can be an option.
We can discuss that.
So, Mike, I want to hear from you. Is that all right? Can I jump in here, Alex, and just, because we do have something before us, which I think many of us are hearing what Val is saying.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with what Councilman DiPaolo
So what that
suggested.
would mean was when it comes to a vote, when it comes before us later on, that I would entertain a motion to table to allow Councilman Chaplinsky to rewrite it. Is that okay?
Sure, I'll
Chip? And then it'll come back to us for review, and then, if we all agree, it'll go to the ordinance committee.
Well, I thought we were going to work in a bipartisan manner to rewrite it.
Well, because I would like Paul to put, I don't want to take this from Paul, because
I put my name on it. I'll do it.
He drafted it. So I would like Paul to do the.
I'll send it to you, though.
Yeah, we'll send it to you. We're not trying to hide it.
Which one of the three of you should I send it to, though?
We can send it to, I
'Cause
just said I would work with you
I'll
in a
work with you. Okay,
bipartisan
great.
manner, but why don't it should go to the council.
Okay.
Well, we're not going to debate it in an email to the council. Why should we? Because we can't have offline
Okay, so
issues.
send it,
We can distribute it to everybody, but if I'm going to work with somebody, it should be one person.
okay, so you okay with, okay, so send it to me.
So, thank you. That's
So,
good. It was
since we're
good.
talking about this and we're going back to the drawing board, I just wanted to bring a couple things up so that, again, while you guys are working on it, maybe you guys could take some of this into consideration. And these are some of my thoughts. Some of
Madam Chair, just should you maybe give it to Val, Jack, and then if you have ideas for the ordinance, because we can go, because otherwise these are not agenda points anymore. We're just going on and on about it. So why don't you give? I would suggest he give his.
I would
opinions
voice
to the-
my, very good, yeah.
I want to
think
voice
these should be
some of
really
my
given to the
concerns.
minority.
Hang on. I want to voice
subcommittee
some of my
first.
concerns.
Well, give them to Val. She will bring it forward.
But again, we're here having a dialogue, and everybody else got to speak. So-
Respectfully, this is the town attorney's report.
I'm going to move on to section.
So I guess I
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And just to preface, I know Mr. Powell has the same concerns with section D. This is in addition to chapter 193, alcohol, beverage, tobacco products. I can give the background on how some of this came to light. In the budget implementer bill last summer, the state of Connecticut decriminalized marijuana. They also provided municipalities with regulations on how they can regulate not just marijuana and cannabis, but actually tobacco and all smoking in the whole world. and some of the big items right now is there's absolutely zero smoking, vaping of any kind, any product within 25 feet of any public restaurant, public buildings, windows or openings, and public parks. Anything regulated by DEP is now non-smoking, and it provided the town the ability to control smoking on its public property as well, and as well as regulate restaurants and outdoor dining, which is not part of this, what you have in front of you. So that is the backstory on this. Again, like Mr. Chaplinsky said, this is his proposed ordinance, and I'm not asking anybody to take any action. When it gets on the agenda, the council can debate and do whatever they like with it.
Very
And
good.
that concludes my report.
Well, that was
Long report.
that was a long report. All right. We're entering into public communication. We would invite any member of the public who wishes to speak. You'll have 5 minutes. We ask that you are respectful, and we are respectful to you as well. So please come forward if you would like to speak.
Hello, my name is Mitchell Oliva. I live at 143 Washington Drive in Southington. Before I begin, I want to thank Megan for all of her efforts with Steps. I've told Megan this before. When the Megan Albanese fan club gets started, I want to be CC'd in the email. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. I'm a lifelong resident here in town. I'm proud to say that I've been working in the nonprofit world here in town for the past 8 years for multiple different nonprofits. There's something that's magical about Southington when it comes to the nonprofit world, and it's known throughout the state as one of the leaders. And that's something that we're incredibly fortunate of, and it speaks volumes of our morals as a community. Today, I proudly serve as the chair of Southington Pride, a nonprofit organization located here in our community. At Southington Pride, we work to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout our community. Our focus is to create resources and programmings to support the LGBTQI plus community, individuals and families with special needs and disabilities, and to support intersectionality topics with those two communities. We're excited to return this year to host Southington's second annual Pride celebration in 2022. From Friday, May 6th through Sunday, May 22nd, we are proud to present 2 full weeks of events for residents in our community to celebrate LGBTQI plus Pride Month. Our 2022 events include the return of educational panels, religious organization events, youth and family events, small business partnerships, and as well, we will be looking to raise money for local charities in our community. All of the funds from this event will go to support youth and family programming that we're currently implementing in Southington for families. As a nonprofit organization, we look forward to doubling our efforts this year on implementing new programming and resources for these communities. For 2022, we're going to be partnering with businesses to create a Pride Pass passport system. One of our main goals, and I know it's a shared value with the council as well, is to stimulate the local economy and support our small business community, especially after the devastating effects that the COVID-19 pandemic has had. Our second new event is called Pup Strut for Pride. It is a pride celebration for dog and their owners. There will be an amateur dog show at the end. Afterwards, all of the money raised will be going towards animal shelters and veterinarian care for animals with severe disabilities. In 2021, we welcomed over 3,000 attendees to Southington Pride. We partnered with 24 small businesses in Southington to host their own Pride events and specials. Our 4 open and affirming congregations in Southington hosted religious events as well as free educational panels on DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. In collaboration with 8 other nonprofits, we presented the town's first Pride celebration. I'm here this evening to comment on the public hearing request for an ordinance that regulates which flags can be flown at town buildings. Last year, we were very fortunate to see the passing of a resolution from the town council stating that LGBTQI plus Pride Week and citizens are welcome in town. We were honored to see our town council pass this resolution, and we were especially even more honored to see it passed as the majority had crafted it together, and to see a 9-0 vote is a huge historic moment in our town. And there were many kids that we work with that February 8th was the first day that they felt that they were seen in the community, which is huge. It sent a message to the parents of our LGBTQI plus children that their family belongs and is a reflection of our community. We received communication from across the nation of former town residents whom had left Southington, citing harassment and discrimination they had faced in the past, discussing how proud that they were to see Southington moving in this direction. As well, we even had people come from out of state as far as California to come and celebrate, to see this first celebration come through. It also sent a major message to a group of youth in our community that are currently struggling and are at increased use for drug abuse. According to the STEPS data that was most recently done, I'm very excited for the new survey as well. LGBT kids were actually at the highest risk of drug use, and we're at the highest risk of challenges with mental health. And they're not having these challenges because of their identity or because of who they are. They're having these challenges because they're not seeing acceptance and there's a lack of support services. Last year, we welcomed over 400 people to our Youth and Family Pride event, and there were 2 quotes that I wanted to stand out today before I conclude. The first is from a teacher named Laura Meehan, who had stated, although it seems like a fun day, it really does save lives. And I'm a teacher. I see my LGBTQ students when they feel supported, they're just healthier. The second quote is from an 18-year-old in our community whom stated, it's so cool, it's so awesome. You don't see this in other towns. You mostly see it in cities. It's the first sign I've ever seen that there might be change. Those quotes stood out to me because there's positive in those quotes, and there's also youth that are clearly communicating that there is change that needs to happen. Anyways, for the ordinance that's going to be presented in front of the town council for the flag raising ceremony, I hope to see this be an open discussion and a collaboration with all different offices. And as well, we open up to the committee and the council to have a meeting. I know we've presented that before. That opportunity is always still there. And our biggest goal is to continue to impact the community of Southington and to continue to work towards our shared goals of making Southington not only a great community to live, work, and play, but also as well to be enticing different places. And I am concerned truly about the message that an ordinance would have that would limit something that happened last year to our businesses that partner with us, our corporate sponsors that invest heavily in this region, and as well to the citizens and the youth in our community. So I thank you so much for the time to get to speak, and I hope everyone has a great night. And like I said, please remember, when the Megan Albanese fan club comes, make sure I'm CC'd.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Good evening. I'm Candace Mazzarella, and I live at 115 Johanna Circle. I wanted to take the opportunity to address you guys regarding the Persons with Disabilities Commission. As you are aware, there have been a lot of turnover, including resignations of multiple members, including myself. I wanted to be on the commission to help the disabled population in our Southington community. It is something I'm very passionate about and always will be. I have firsthand and professional experience with children with special needs. I'm sorry, this is anxiety provoking for me. I have a lot of firsthand and professional experience with children with special needs and elderly disabled. I was very hopeful and positive when I started on this commission, with lots of enthusiasm and great ideas for the community that I truly hoped would make a difference. Unfortunately, the leadership whom you appointed refused to consider most ideas members of the council brought to the table every time. In the first meeting I attended, as a member of the commission, I was very uncomfortable with the way some members of the majority, specifically the chair and vice chair, treated me. I'm sorry, this is very emotional. Can I ask somebody to read this for me?
Somebody.
Actually, the clerk would read it for you.
Okay, sorry.
In the first meeting that I attended as a member of the commission, I was very uncomfortable with the way some members of the majority, specifically the chair and the vice chair, treated me. They asked very personal questions about me and my daughter with special needs, to the point that I felt uncomfortable. Despite communicating with discomfort on several occasions, this behavior continued for the entire time I was on the commission. The commission leadership were rude to other members, especially if they were not members of the majority party. They were rude to the public. They used inappropriate and dated words to describe individuals with disabilities. And the most frustrating of all, the commission accomplished close to nothing, with only an exception of being the formation of a campership subcommittee, which led to other members of the commission. I want you all to understand why I chose to leave the commission in hopes that you will make the necessary leadership changes, seating qualified, passionate, and motivated leaders to advocate for the disabled members of our community. 1, I chose to leave because the attitude, disrespects, and inappropriate behavior of members of the commission were affected by mental health. This included waving a finger in my face and talking down to me, not to mention being dismissive to the members of the public during public communication. The individual presented research on transportation and was told to leave by the chairman. He voiced he wouldn't. You didn't want to put his name on something he didn't believe in. Thank you. 2, I felt targeted every meeting by a few members of the committee who continuously probed into my personal life and my daughter's life, who also has special needs. 3, the commission leaders often used offensive and dated language when referring to people who were disabled, to the point that I was concerned about my association with the group. 4, when I did try to educate members, including the vice chair that represented was no longer appropriate, openly refusing to correct. This is a person.
Meaning the word "are."
Okay. This personally offended me as a parent and a caregiver to a disabled child. Members lied about organizing a subcommittee on transportation after becoming an issue for the town council. There was no formal action on the commission to form a subcommittee, never mind the supported subcommittee only included the chair and vice chair. 6, the chair had left to go to Florida last month but failed to tell anyone besides the vice chair, and he wanted to table everything until he came back from Florida, which is at the end of April. This would have undetermined about ability to prove camp scholarship as part of the campership program, and resulted in 3 months of inaction with the chair playing snowbird. My observation is that they do not care about the people with disabilities and have no intention of learning how to advocate on their behalf, or they are just very confused. The commission commission leaders discussed openly their disagreement, library referendum, although ADA compliance is a key issue. The disabled folks in the community truly deserve better and feel like it would help the community in many ways. I think the recent overturn of the commission speaks volumes as to the problems. I encourage you to put politics aside and fix it.
Thank
We keep this for the.
Can I email you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Hi, Richard.
Richard Cooper, 79 Barbara Lane. Let's see. It's kind of a lot, so I'm not sure if I'll get to everything. But yeah, I guess first and foremost, I would like to say that just from where I stand, if there is a need in this town for a certain community to get around with public transportation, to me, we should provide it full stop. This is a wealthy town. We have the means and the resources. Theoretically, done right, it should reduce traffic and increase safety on the roads if done properly. But again, full stop. If there's a need for it, we should provide it. I mean, 84 runs right through our entire town. Really doesn't make sense that we don't. Just a quick comment on steps, I guess. I do wish steps the luck, and I hope that they are successful in their mission. I guess I would just like to say, I hope that they don't forget students after they graduate. Yeah, and I hope that those resources that high schoolers are developing in school carry on after they graduate as well, because those years after graduation are some of the most vulnerable. When you're at a fork in the road, and the path that you choose really matters, and those are very difficult years. So yeah. So there was just so much tonight. So since the town attorney is here and the town manager, I almost forgot to bring this up, but if either of you could give clarification on why we no longer elect a registrar of voters, and I would like to know why that stopped. It seems like it stopped sometime around 2019, I think, was the last time we elected one.
We elect our registrar of voters. Both of them.
we do.
They're on the state schedule, not the town schedule. So both the Republican and Democrat are both elected.
Oh, so we do. Okay. I just got thrown off because I was looking because I thought this most recent election year was when we were supposed to elect a new one, because it's 4-year terms, right?
You got confused because they're not on the town schedule, because technically they're state personnel, so they're on the even schedule.
Okay.
Every 4 years, they both get elected.
Okay. Yeah, I did get confused because I looked in the charter for that too, and I saw something reserved for something in regards to that was unique. So thank you for that clarification. And I guess my last point is, just as a citizen of the town, I don't like a lot of the politicization I'm seeing up here. I really wish, to think that there's so many people in our community in need, and then have to listen to what sounds like really petty bickering up here. It's just, I don't like it. It's a bad look for our entire town. And so I would encourage all of you to work together. Don't accuse people of things without evidence. Be very careful about that. And if there is something wrong, don't just say it. If it's that serious, you have to do something about it. Don't make accusations without evidence. All right, that's all I got.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else have anything they wish to say tonight? Last call. Okay, I'm going to close public communication. Thank you all that spoke this evening. We appreciate that. All right. We're on old business right now. Let me just get organized here. May I have a motion on item A, action on the Livewell project public hearing?
So moved, Madam Chair.
I'll
Val?
second.
Madam Chair, if I may, because it's
Oh,
IRS,
yeah.
the motion would be to approve the resolution as set forth in your packet tonight as presented to you. If that would be your motion.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I will make a motion that we accept the resolution as presented in our.
I want the IRS coming to your house tomorrow.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second, Madam.
Okay. Let's have a voice vote on that, please.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, of course. Any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would just like to thank the representative
Oh, there's
for
still-
staying throughout this
Crazy meeting.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other further discussion from the members of the council?
Yeah.
Hearing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor
No,
signify.
I'm sorry. Roll call vote for the resolution, please.
Oh, I already said, yeah,
said that,
a
that's right.
voicemail. I'm a little off tonight. Go ahead.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, congratulations. We wish you the very best, Michael, and thank you so much for coming tonight. Item B, action on the report of the Board of Finance.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the January 9th Board of Finance minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam
I have a
Chair.
second?
I'm sorry, February 9th. I think I said January. February 9th.
February 9th. Thank you. Will you have a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's call the roll.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item C, action on the detention pond cleaning and inspection bid.
Make a motion to award the bid to Merrick Brothers Construction based on the recommendation from the Director of Public Works.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. We'll open this up for discussion. Anyone have anything they wish to speak on this?
Just a quick question. It's a huge difference in the hourly rate.
Yes.
Is that typical?
Well, it all depends. I mean, obviously, people are busy, and if they get the bid, they get the bid at the price. Merrick has served the town for more years than I can remember.
Wonderful.
So we're very confident that they'll do the job and for a very fair price.
Yeah.
Great. That's a good point, Val, because I thought the same thing when I saw it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It flies unanimously. Action on the Library Building Committee. Jim?
This is, Madam Chair, this is one we're either adding a person or removing a person, right?
That's right. Jim?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Paul Mazzacaro for the position of a civilian on the Library Building Committee. Mr. Mazzacaro has over 40 years of public service experience. He was last Chief Administrative Officer for the Westport Library. He was the key person that oversaw a $20.8 million expansion. And I think he's a fine candidate for that position.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Do you have an address for him?
I don't have it, but he is a Southington resident.
Okay, I just want, so I can contact if that's the person, okay.
And he is a Democrat, correct?
He is a Democrat, yes.
Okay, very good.
And for transparency purposes, Madam Chair, I also asked the dictator if I could add another Democrat earlier in the process who is also already on that committee. So just so it's known that I'm not a political.
Okay.
What does that mean? What,
It
who
means
did
that
you
I
ask?
asked for an additional position on that board for Mr. Oblon, who's a Democrat.
He was,
At the beginning.
Yes.
yeah.
But at the beginning, you were in violation of the.
Yeah, which I didn't
legislation.
realize, Val. I'm glad it was brought up because I thought we had cleared that. But with this is such a anti-political group that I didn't even bother to figure it all out. It's my fault. So, but we're fine now. So there's a name on the floor with a second. Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, is there any more nominations? Anything? We want to make sure we're open. Anything?
I'll just say that I don't know Mr. Mazzacaro personally, but the few meetings that I did attend during the planning session, him and Brian that you mentioned were very sharp, not very knowledgeable about libraries, very passionate. So I think he's going to do a fantastic job.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I'll second that. I attended a few of the planning meetings, and when both of those folks spoke, everybody stopped
Yes.
and listened. They were very,
So
very
good.
knowledgeable on the topic, so that was very good.
Absolutely. All right. If there's nothing else, let's call the roll on this. Okay.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, absolutely. So now we come to item E, which is the action on scheduling of a public hearing.
I'm going to motion to table that, Madam
We're
Chair.
going to get a motion to
Second.
table. Very good. All those in favor, any other discussion?
No discussion.
No. Oh, that's a motion to table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Flies unanimously. Thank
I'll
you.
also motion to table item F, Madam Chair.
Second.
And there's a second from Chris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Very good. Thank you so much. New business.
Yeah, Madam Chair, for item A, I'm going to make a motion to send a favorable referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Send the
Just a referral.
referral to the 824. They send back the favorable or unfavorable.
That's right.
So I'll make a motion to send this to 824 for a referral to Planning and Zoning.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Any more discussion on it?
Clarification. What's the 824?
regarding?
What we had in executive.
Mark, do we,
You have to put that on the record.
Yeah, we have
It's
to-
concerning
the address?
It's concerning 800 East Street, Southington, Connecticut.
Okay. The matter of 800 East Street, Southington, Connecticut. I'll make the motion to send that to Planning and Zoning for 824 referral.
Hold my second.
Yes, you're seconding it, right? Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's call the roll.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item B, tax refunds.
I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that were presented to us in our packets.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Val. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Unanimous, a vote on that. All right, item C are appointments, the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to add Melissa Hallgren, 31 Birchcrest Drive, to the commission.
Second that.
Have a second on it. Any further discussion on it?
Madam Chair, can you maybe give some qualifications and
Sure.
background?
Paul, you want to take that?
Yeah, Melissa's been very active in the community. If you've been to community services, Bread for Life, a lot of the volunteer work in town, she works very closely with community services quite regularly. She's been very committed in the community, working with folks who are in need, and is a Southington native. And I think she's going to be great. She's a very good listener and very active in our community. So I think she's going to serve very well with an open mind on the committee, as previously discussed by others at the meeting tonight.
And the affiliation?
She's a Republican.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Just a clarification, there's 4 openings. How are we doing?
We are having,
We're doing the first one.
But do you want 4 names?
well, I think
How do
we
you
have
want-
to go individually. Do we have to go individually?
You could do 4 names. They all expire at the same time, so it's irrelevant. I mean, normally I'd ask you if their terms are all different, but they all expire in April 23, so you can do one at a time. You can do them all.
Yeah, one at a time. I'd rather do one
All
at
right,
a
that's
time,
fine.
if that's okay.
I have one question, and this to the town attorney in regards to the state statute 9-167A, Section D states that, again, because if we're going to vote on it all at once, that state statute and that section mentions that any appointments to fill a vacancy has to stay the same party affiliation. So I guess my question would be, is that what we're doing here, or like for like, or what's happening here?
So that's statute, which I don't have in front of me, so I can't quote the language, but that is for elected positions, not for appointments.
This is for,
Correct.
Yeah,
That's correct.
let me read it for you. At such time as the minority representation provisions of this section become applicable to any board, commission, committee, or body, any vacancy thereafter occurring which is to be filled by an appointment shall be filled by an appointment of a member of the same political party as the vacating member. So again, this is a committee that is appointed by the council. So my interpretation underneath state statute 9-167A, section D states that the party affiliations must stay the same. And based on what I've seen as the resignations, there's 1 Republican, 1 unaffiliated, and 2 Democrats that have resigned from that committee. So I would obviously love to see that makeup continue.
So my interpretation of that statute disagrees with your interpretation. I just don't know how you'd fill the U. What would you like the U to be?
Well, I'm fine with it being the same makeup. I'm fine with that. And we have 2 Democrats that we would like to present this evening.
I just need a legal opinion because we
That
weren't.
statute applies strictly for elections, but Mr. Perry can, obviously, when you call for additional names.
They can put it in,
Absolutely.
but it's not necessary in your interpretation that it has to be filled on that particular thing. Just so that we're clear on that, so we know what we're doing. Okay. So Melissa Hallgren's name is up, and she's filling a Republican seat. And so would you call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to add Jill Delafera, 12 Arlington Drive in Southington. She's an unaffiliate, works in the public school system, and also currently focusing education in special education as well. So I think this would be a really nice fit for her.
Very good. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion about Jill Della Fera? She's an unaffiliate.
Delafera?
Mm-hmm. Hearing none, would you please call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to, let me just double check. I want to make sure we're all where we need to be. I would like to put in a Democrat right now, if you all have a name.
Yep, Madam Chair, we'd like to put the name in of Thomas Catricala. Tom is at 204 Stonegate Road.
What was the last name, Val? I'm sorry.
Catricala.
Calla?
I think I have that right, Tom?
Is he here tonight?
Yeah, Tom's here tonight.
Okay.
So Tom has a good amount of experience advocating for people with disabilities. He has experience in the industry of assistive and medical technology. He actually received a patent, it sounds like, for designing a walker, which could be used on stairs. He's experienced in people first language and proficient in the basics of American Sign Language. I think he's passionate with his work in this area, and I think he would do an excellent job on the Disabilities Commission.
Yeah, and he's okay working with the Republicans that are on there, is that correct? Because we had some issues with that. I mean, as long as there's, because
I'm not sure
the
why
reason
you're
I
asking
bring
that, Madam Chair, because
I
I don't really
why I
think,
bring that up
we
is that-
didn't ask that of any of the
I
other two
bring it
that
up
were
for this
just,
reason, because Tom is very vocal on social media. Is that correct?
Unbelievable.
You're pretty active on social media, and it's been pretty.
and
negative.
none of the other people that have been appointed are active on social media.
Madam Chair,
But being very negative against this party, so I just.
I think this is totally outside
Point
the
of order.
scope of
I mean,
what we should be discussing further.
We have a
IT.
Democratic
All right,
meeting.
well.
This is a Southington
This is-
resident, and
All
you
right,
just had a
thank you very much. I haven't recognized you yet. I haven't recognized
Chair,
you
can I
yet. I
speak?
just told Val, all right, we're going to
Madam
go
Chair, can I-
forward.
can I
Thank you very
speak?
much. That's it. I'm not recognizing you right now. We are going forward because I already mentioned it to Val. We're
I'll
set.
second that motion.
We're set. All right. So there's a nomination on the floor.
I'll second it.
Tom, and there's a second. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
No.
Morelli,
No.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
No.
Del Santo,
No.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
No, I have to say no. I'm sorry. I don't think it's a good fit. So I apologize, Tom. That doesn't mean that we're.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. That's okay. Very good. All right. Let's move on.
Good.
Please. It's not your time.
Another name.
Do we have any other name?
I have another name, Madam Chair.
We're not. We have another name for us.
No,
No,
you're still on the D.
There's two. There's two
Still on the
Ds.
D.
I'd like to put forward the name of Gail Lassard, who's a Democrat. She lives at 400 Flanders Road.
I'll second that. Discussion, Madam Chair?
There's going to be discussion now, but I couldn't speak a second ago.
Is there any discussion on this matter?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on the last one.
Okay.
So
Well, we're on this matter now, Jack.
Well, you told me I couldn't speak, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So
there's-
I'd like the floor.
Before
and-
us?
Yeah,
Excuse me, there's a motion before us and a name that's
Can I not
before
speak
us.
now?
Wait till
And
the
so we're going to
discussion.
call,
I seconded.
and Tom seconded it.
Discussion.
And so now we're up for discussion on this matter. Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
Would you like to give us her qualifications?
So I guess my,
Do you
my
want me-
discussion is,
we-
is
I was looking
after
down.
seeing what I've read in the paper about the Disability Commission, as well as what Miss Mazzarella came up today, and she couldn't even speak because of fear of what has been happening. We owe this to our disabled residents. This is a commission that should not be political. So I'm happy that Gail has a great background, and I know she showed up at the last meeting, and she will serve this committee well.
Do you want me to answer you now?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you just give us
Yeah,
some.
Gail is, she's retired, but she used to be the head of special education at Southington High School.
Great.
She's a longtime educator in town. I think she'll serve along very well. There's another special ed teacher on the commission already, Karen Kavanaugh. So they know each other professionally. I think they'll really work well together.
Very good.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
While we're on the topic of this, so if we can ask the town attorney one last time to take a look at the makeup of the
The
board,
makeup,
just to make sure we double check. So far, we have seated before tonight and after resignations, before tonight and after the resignations, we have 3 seated, 3 or 4?
We have 1, 2,
Two right now.
3. This is prior. 3, 4.
before tonight.
There was 4.
So there was 4.
There was
We
4
seated a
before.
Republican.
We seated a Republican. We also seated Jill as a U. And this name is a D. Gail is a D. And so that still gives us 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's 5 who have not resigned.
There are
Correct.
5 who has not
So-
resigned.
So to the town attorney, then, we would essentially have,
We have 5 vacancies right now.
4 vacancies.
No.
4 vacancies.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mark?
There's 4 vacancies because you appointed someone at the last meeting.
Oh,
we have Mary.
Yeah, Mary
Barbagallo.
Barbagallo was appointed at the last meeting.
And right now, there's seated 4 Republicans.
And 2 unaffiliated, right?
5 members right now.
There's 5 members.
There's 5 members before you guys voted,
Right.
so go ahead.
So right now, we have 1 Republican, 2 Republicans, 3 Republicans, 4 Republicans, and 1 unaffiliated. So it's 5 members. So the maximum number of 2 more Republicans.
Right, so they've already appointed 1 Republican, so the most they can appoint is 1 more.
So
with
after this one,
We still
There
have
could be one more.
R, is that correct?
They won't take it, but,
Okay, very good.
Let's vote on
you know.
yeah, I just
Yes,
want to make sure
let's-
before we,
yeah,
just so we,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You need to vote on Gail.
Yeah, we're going to vote on Gail. No, is there any more discussion on Gail? She seems, let's call the roll for Gail.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Absolutely.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Very good. Is there,
Your vote.
oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry. It's quite an evening. So we still need one more Republican, I believe, on the committee. Is that correct? Or it could be a Republican. Is that correct?
You could have 1 more.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You'd like.
So could I have a name, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to place the name of Jess Rydell. I'm unsure of her address, though.
That's okay. We can.
Jess who?
Rydell, Rydell.
Riedel, right?
I'm not sure of the spelling.
Southington native. I just did. Yeah.
Yep.
And she's very interested in serving. I spoke with her directly, and she's very anxious to serve the folks that are disabled, and very open to all kinds of great ideas. I think she's going to be great.
What's her background, Madam Chair?
Her background is, I believe it's in education. I'm not sure, though. But I did speak with her directly, and she's very impressive. So we're going to put her name up. So.
And will she get along with the Republicans
Yes,
on
I'm
the?
sure she will. She would get along with anybody, Val. She's great. So, Madam Clerk, can you call the
throw her
roll,
on.
please?
Is there discussion? One more?
Discussion?
Sure, of course.
I just, again, it's a 9-member commission, 1 Democrat on there. To me, is not following the spirit of the charter, which is having a little bit more equal representation. I'm not asking for 4. I'm not asking for 5. I'm asking at this point for 2 seats on that commission. And there were 2 Democrats on there. So I'm sure she's qualified, but I can't support another Republican on this board when there's only 1 Democrat.
I understand.
I-
Any
I-
other comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, and again, the way I interpret this state statute, I'd like to make a motion to table this and get legal counsel from the town attorney. I don't want to do the same thing that we did on the library building committee, where we acted outside of following the law. We should be following the law, and we should definitely be acting carefully. So I'd like to make a motion to table this appointment and have our town attorney, he stated that he didn't have the ordinance in front of him, and he's giving us legal advice without having the ordinance in front of him. So again, that is a concern.
There's a
to me.
motion on the floor to table.
Should we ask him?
Oh, wait.
You already did.
Second the motion?
I second the motion.
So now you can't, no
Motion
more
to table, so
discussion.
now you have to call a vote.
So, yeah, that's right. So we're going to call a vote now to table Jessica Rydell. So, Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Lombardi,
No to table.
Morelli,
No to table.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
No.
Del Santo,
No.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Yes.
So now
Triano.
No to table. Thank you, everybody.
The other motions- now
So
the
the
other
motion
motion's on the floor.
pulls forward.
So now the motion goes forward.
Discussion.
Any further discussion?
Just to the town attorney, because we didn't have time for the discussion on the table.
Right.
Since I wanted to ask the question there. So your interpretation of the regulation is that minority representation, when somebody resigns from an appointed board, that is not contained within that clause, that's for elected officials only?
So minority representation requires that there be no more than 2/3 on one board as far as replacing.
Right.
Resigning or someone who passed away. No, that's. We have to fill the same.
Okay. So just to confirm, because I heard Mr. Perry say that you didn't have it in front of you, so I wanted to make sure that you were confident in your.
I am.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, to be fair, if there is an alternative ruling, we'll revisit the appointments.
Sure.
But
Well, and this
I think
absolutely
what we've
good
heard
point.
tonight is that this commission needs improvement and it needs to get to work.
That's right.
So we should let's put the board back together and get to work on it.
And Tom, first order of business is transit.
Transit.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Air transit.
Let's let them get formed and settled, and we should be supportive of what they're looking for and move forward from what happened.
Well, and Tom, that's a good point, but the problem is what I have a problem is that people that have resigned have been very qualified, very passionate, and did a good job. And the leadership of that committee is still intact. And so those are people that you put there. And so I understand, yes, we need to appoint new people, and I certainly hope that all these people are going to step up and do a good job. But the leadership is still there, and that seems to be the common denominator from the people that have resigned. That's what I heard from 3 of the 4 commissioners that spoke with me. And it's very discouraging and it's very upsetting. And those were people that were put there by your majority.
Yes.
And so now you're putting more people there, and we certainly do hope this commission is going to be
And I
better.
took it very seriously, by the way, Val. I took it
I'm
very
sure you,
seriously.
Madam Chair, I'm sure that you did, but it doesn't,
Because you and I know that we both share that desire to get a transportation within this community.
but see, it's not just a transportation issue, and I think that's what we're losing sight of. It's a commission that needs to advocate and support people with disabilities in our community and their families, and there's other issues that they should be dealing with.
And I'm sure this committee is going to do a great job.
Well, I certainly hope so, Madam Chair, but
So,
All right.
so
Very
I,
discouraging.
Madam Chair,
Motion to table, a motion to adjourn?
No.
Sorry? Oh, we didn't vote. I am so sorry. Let's,
Madam
yes.
Chair, are you
I'm
feeling
sorry.
okay?
Excuse me?
We haven't voted on Jessica yet.
We have to vote on Jessica, yes. So is there any more discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something. So, again, I guess I'm not referring to the section that the town attorney is mentioning. I'm referring to section D under 167 or 9-167A. So for that reason, I will be voting no tonight because, again, I think we're following the same path as with the library building committee, and it's my interpretation that we will be revisiting this at some point, and then it's going to be who do we remove off this commission, and I'm going to feel really bad that we're going to have to remove somebody if we're not following. So I think, again, pushing this off one council meeting just to really dive into this would be my personal opinion. So for that reason, I don't want to muddy up the waters, and I'll be voting no this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll, please?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
No.
Triano.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Wait.
Conservation Commission.
Oh, yeah, conservation. I'm going to make a motion to table that one.
I've not received any names for Conservation Commission, so.
Yeah.
Thank
Motion
you.
to table that one. He mentioned
Second.
He mentioned it earlier.
So are we tabling that?
Motion by Paul, second by
Motion
me.
and second for table now, over here.
All right. Call the roll, please, Madam Clerk. It's a long night, isn't it?
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes.
Now that motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for